Middlekaauff.
Hey, B.
I need a lock. I need a lock sound effect. Lock of the week, John. Never a doubt. We are recording. We are live. We're live on YouTube. If you're listening to this podcast, we're recording this Sunday night. The Niners game ended seconds ago.
What a game. What a game. I'm trying to find YouTube to load it to the Twitter. My heart's racing, guy. My heart is racing. Did not feel great about that, I'll be honest, coming down the stretch. I didn't know if they were going to win. Honestly, thought they were going to lose. Yeah.
In some ways, they deserved it. In some ways, they didn't. It was weird, man. The whole thing was an East Coast 125 kick. It got dark before the second quarter was over. It was bizarre, but whatever. Playoff position.
I think it throws you off. I think what throws us off, CBS Niner game, afternoon, but not against like the Steelers or the Chiefs or the Patriots. So You're playing the Bengals, so you keep thinking in your head the Bengals are bad, but then you see their record and you see their players and you're like, actually, they're not bad. Like they are, as they said during either halftime or maybe during the game, Archuleta, who sounds just like John Lynch.
I think Archuletta's pretty good, by the way. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
But does his voice sound like John Lynch? Am I crazy?
You mentioned that to me, and I kind of hear it.
That the Bengals, if they would have won, because the Ravens lost today, would have been, in the seeding of the playoffs, they would have had a home game. They would have been leading the AFC North, which, again, most of us talk like the Bengals always suck. I think their fans would say, hey, guys, we've been in the playoffs a lot in the last 15 years. They're not as bad of a franchise, I think, as the way us coastal elitists view them.
No. Marvin Lewis did good things there. They've had an executive of the year.
This guy's not doing terrible, right? I mean, I watch them. No. I think they're, their special teams coach probably should get fired, but other than that, they got some offensive guys.
You still got CBS on?
I turned it off. No, I didn't want it. What do you got going on?
Distracted. My TV's acting funky. I just don't know if it's just me or atmospheric river or what the deal is. But channel's cutting in and out. Doesn't matter. Joey Biscuits, John. He went for 348, 2 touchdowns. We looked up with like 2 minutes left in the Niner game, regulation. And I think Garoppolo had like 168 passing. Jimmy Garoppolo ended with almost 300 yards passing. How did that happen?
No.
He had like 168 with like 2 minutes left in the game.
Well, game-winning drive that Robbie tricked, right? He had probably 50 yards there. And then that drive in overtime was what? That drive in overtime was probably another 60 through the air. So, he just – I don't want to say he got fake yards because they were winning yards, those two drives. But, pad the stats a little bit. Like you can't watch that game and see Joey Biscuits. Joey, as a scout texted me, they're like, God damn, I love Joe Burrow. The guy just fights, and he really does. He's like a more buttoned-up version of Tony Romo because he'll make mistakes, but God damn, he can make some remarkable plays, and he's fun. Can you imagine how good that would? What would the Niners do to have Joe Burrow on their team?
I mean, most teams in the league. Yeah.
Holy moly.
You know that the famous Chris Farley Down by a River, and where he's got the motivational speaker and he's got the glasses and he's like, I can't tell, Mom and Dad, is that Bill Shakespeare? I felt like, I can't tell. Is that Joe Montana leading a game-winning drive, or is that Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah, you better. I would wipe those glasses off because it ain't Joe Montana.
Bucks just won an OT. Walk-off TD.
Walk-off TD. So they didn't cover the Bills.
Brady is now. Tom Brady is now. Oh, we got to talk about the Niners. Brady is
39, right?
33-3 all time against the Bills.
Oh, I thought it was going to be 39-2 was the record.
I think it's 33, but we can. All right, we got a lot to talk about, John. As we dive into it, everybody on YouTube, welcome. It's great to see you. We got so much to talk about right now. Hello, if you're on the podcast, hello. Get in the mailbag. Leave us a question on iTunes. 5-star review. We appreciate that. We got to promote Shave It or Save It. NoKidHungry.org/ham. Please go donate. Our goal is $25,000 by the end of December. We had a listener on Friday donate $500, which is incredible. You don't have to donate $500, but if you do, thank you. If you donate 5, if you donate 10, if you donate 50, thank you. NoKidHungry.org/ham. Great cause. Link is in the description.
Can we give a shout out to a friend of the program, to a local small business owner in the Valley, Vincent Recruity. Enzo's Table, ENZOS table.com. Best olive oil in California. You could argue the best in America. They donated Enzo $2,500 to nokidhungry.org/ham. So if you were looking for Christmas gifts, you go to enzostable.com and you just go to their gifts. And if you go to the gifts, their number one seller is the Il Mercado. Incredible Christmas gifts. It's $150, but they have a ton of other gifts ranging from $30, $40 to $150.
Look at this.
Looks good. They will wrap them. Props to Enzo's.
Oh, this is beautiful.
It's awesome. So I'm gonna order a couple for my own family for Christmas. That's an easy
this
one.
is great.
I haven't.
Vince, thanks, brother, man. That is awesome. Vince, that is so cool. How much did you say?
$2,500.
$2,500, man. That is fantastic. We go way back with him, and we know he's a listener, and he's got an awesome business that has been blowing up over the years. That's fantastic, man. Look at this. The website's beautiful. So many great gift options. Oh my God, this is
very
great.
cool. So we're rocking and rolling, baby.
All right, that's not even an ad, by the way. That's just somebody who donated, and so we want to say thank you to that because that's really cool. The ad is Tito's, of course, and we were getting some DMs and photos from people at the beginning of the day going, how much of this will I need today? And the answer is probably quite a bit. But Tito's is the number one vodka in America, John. Number one in America. And, speaking of gathering with loved ones and hanging out, Tito's is the way to go.
Well, we're right around the corner from Christmas, from obviously the New Year's. Here's what you need to do. When you come to Christmas Eve, when you come to Christmas, when you show up to New Year's, come with a bottle of Tito's and with a big smile on your face and hand that to whoever's hosting the gathering. If you are hosting it, have a bottle sitting there when everyone shows up. People will smile. People will get excited. And it'll be awesome. You know why? Because it's the number one vodka in America. Everyone loves it. If you follow them on Instagram, I saw you reposted something. I realized I wasn't even following Tito's on Instagram. They're posting sweet, different cocktails all the time on their page.
And they got great recipes, holiday recipes. Just go to the website for some festive cocktails to shake up the season. And as you know, there's no better order when you belly up to the bar. Look at this: a Tito's Chai Cocoa, a Tito's Merry Mule. There's no doubt that's not delicious. We should break one out this week, John. A little recipe this week. So Tito's handmade vodka. MyBookie.ag promo code ham and the number one. MyBookie. What's up, Marty? MyBookie.ag promo code ham and the number one. Where we is back, John. We had won 11 in a row. We'd lost 3 in a row. The Niners were the lock of the week, and $500 on that, which takes our little pot up back up near probably 3,800. We lost 100 because we bet a parlay.
Like basically almost 36.
Okay. MyBookie.ag ham one. Remember, if you accept the bonus on ham one, they will they'll match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $1,000. If you accept, you have to bet the full amount before you can withdraw. You can also decline. Either way, ham one, let them know we sent you.
Yep, do it. You want to do any action tomorrow night? Rams Cardinals. We got Rams plus 2.5 in Arizona. Over under 51.5.
Wow, you want to do Rams plus 2.5?
It just feels like the whole world's going to be betting the Cardinals.
Yeah, I like good teams with points. You and I were talking about that earlier. Let's table that. So we can
kind of live.
I don't hate that.
Yeah. Just maybe just like $250 just to have a little juice on the game.
Something light.
Well, how fun was it having a little juice on the Monday night game last week? Now, granted, the game was big, but I felt like this is like just as important as any other game I've watched all season.
I know. It got me very mad at the Bills last week, and then it got me mad. I was still residually mad at the Bills this week, even though I had no skin in that game because our parlay was already dead.
Yeah,
but
I feel
we had a 14 parlay that actually had a better shot at hitting than we thought. All right. MyBookie.ag promo code ham1. So maybe by the end of the show, we'll update whether or not we're taking the Rams plus 2.5. But I don't hate that, John.
I'm in.
Okay, if you're in, let's do it. I like it. I don't hate it. I won't overthink it.
Just do it. Good team on the road. Let's do it.
There you go. All right, Niners Bengals. Where do we begin here? They won. We can start with that, I guess. They won.
Well, you said something, and I guess we'll probably talk a little bit more about this guy individually a little bit later, but within maybe it was a couple weeks ago, maybe it was even longer than that, but when it was clear like Ayuk wasn't just back in the rotation, but he was playing well, like The Niners deserve credit for handling that way, handling that situation a little, I would say, unorthodox in 2021. I don't want to say the NFL is the NBA as a players' league, but he had a walk-off touchdown today. They just had a walk-off touchdown in overtime on the road against a team that, again, we view the Bengals different than they actually are until you watch them and realize, God, this team's pretty good. Like that's a good win. Beating the Bengals on the road. They're 7-6 now. I mean, the Bengals are going to get to 9 wins. Like that's probably a fringe playoff team. And Ayuk was excellent today. And he had a walk-off touchdown. Like that's a pretty big deal in the NFL to have a walk-off touchdown.
Yeah.
So I give them, credit for just having him. Like they would not have. We'll talk. Obviously, they did the whole crew of guys, but he was huge for them.
He was, and I think it goes back to kind of what you will. He makes consistently difficult big plays. Consistently difficult big plays. He just does.
Very good contested catch player for sure.
Yeah. He just has become, for a guy that it seemed like was inconsistent. Now he's really consistent. And I think one thing that's consistent with the Niners all year through everything is that it's going to be a roller coaster when the ball's in the air. And, that right now, because of just their lack of depth at running back, I think when we made the Niners our lock of the week this week, we did not expect Deebo Samuel to play, right?
No, not at all.
And we've just seen, because of their lack of consistency right now, running back, they don't have a ton there. I mean, Jeff Wilson got 13 carries. Deebo got 8. All right.
I thought Jeff Wilson was actually pretty good today. Like, I just thought he was, had just a solid showing for a backup running back.
He was, but they weren't going to win the game just on running the football against the Bengals.
No. I mean, they only scored 26 points, and obviously 6 of them were in overtime. Deebo Samuel accounted, like, his one touchdown was massive. Because, again, his one touchdown is not, on the 2-yard line, they gave it to him on the end of the round. It was a 27-yard down the sideline where it's like, how's he stay in bounds? And he just walks right in the end zone. Like, it's probably under 50% chance they score on that drive, because as we saw all game long, like, they struggle to score touchdowns. It typically takes a remarkable play by one of their skill guys, and when Deebo's healthy, they have the advantage for the wrong. They just have the luxury of just being able to literally line him up in the backfield and hand him the ball. Like the Bengals, I guess the Bengals have Joe Mixon, so they can just do that, but they don't do that to Jamar Chase.
Can we talk about let's just rattle through some other things from this game before we really zero in on some conversations. The pick 6 that wasn't alternate universe walk-off touchdown at the end of regulation when the Niners are driving for Robbie Gould to miss a game-winning field goal. And Bengals, do you think was that going to be a pick 6 to end regulation for the Bengals?
It would have taken a pretty remarkable play by Kittle, who was flat-footed, to probably catch him in the open field. It would have been, I would say, 68, 70% he's in the end zone, yeah.
If I'm in the Bengals locker room, it
was Bates, I think.
Oh, Jesse Bates?
Yeah.
For the rest of the night, that's all I'm going to just right there in my hands.
Well, a little inside the podcast, we already had another topic like Trey Lance should start against Atlanta if they lose that game. So it's
that's right.
The alternate universe in football is, especially the way the Niners play these games, is a caught ball by a defender, is a missed field goal, is a Jimmy Garoppolo fumble, right? I mean, their margins for error, the 49ers margin for error right now is 0. They have none, right? There's no lead safe enough. Guy, they were up 14 points 5 minutes into the fourth quarter. It's like, and in full control of the game, but they're never in full control of the game. So you never feel comfortable. Like, oh, they could score in 2 plays, because they can't. You just hit a deep ball. The Niners benefit every time you run the football against them, right?
Well, that's what we kept thinking when the Bengals ran it back-to-back plays. They ran it on second down. No.
They ran it on first and second down in overtime. That led to the field goal. It's insane. Insanity.
And, guys, what are you doing? Thank you, but what are you doing?
3 wide receivers who every time you throw it to them are wide open. I mean, Higgins and Boyd across the middle. It's like, hey, there's T. Higgins right across the middle. Where's the Niner defender? Well, not 15 yards radius anywhere close. It's like, why don't you just keep running that play? They overthought themselves a little bit.
They did. And at the end, what did they set up? A 3rd and 4, I think is what it was. But still, I mean, it's just when you
Coach hasn't been in these games.
No, they haven't been in these games.
Yeah.
The Bengals just haven't been like. I think one thing is clear with them is they're going to be.
But I mean
big
specifically
games.
him as a play caller. Like that just feels a little inexperienced, right? It's like you have something that's working here. Like I'm not against giving it to P. Ryan or Joe Mixon, the little Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma Bob Stoops combination, but the Niners cannot cover you. They can't. Now they can sure celebrate the hell out of a drop or an overthrow because no one can celebrate better than the 49ers on when you screw up a pass attempt.
I never understand corners where it's like the ball's out of bounds. It was only 1st and 10. They are targeting you like a deer out in the open, and they're going to come right at you the next play. You really going to celebrate like that's it? Like that's all? It's all fiend. It's over? Like no, it's about it's coming again on the next play. But sure, that was all you. Yeah. The ball was 5 yards out of bounds, but that was you. It's incredible.
And today was a good example, big picture, where it's like, listen, Ambry Thomas, hopefully he's okay. He was down at the end of the game, but gave up some massive plays. I do think fans, the consumer, can live. It's like, whoa, he's getting smoked. Well, yeah, I've been watching older guys that are not going to be on the team. You just draft this guy in the 3rd round, like live and die with him. Like we did it with Akello Weatherspoon for a couple years, and then you realize he's just not good enough. But it's corners hard enough. This is where I go back to, like, if you just would have played him all season, maybe we just would come away at the end of the year, he's the worst player on the team. Maybe he would just get better. But now, one thing Archuleta said, and listen, these guys are just reiterating what they're being told in these meetings, like, they really need these guys to step up. Well, yeah, because they're desperate. Where were they in terms of developing these guys and giving them a chance to rep in earlier in the season against shittier opponents? It's like, hey, Ambry, first start. Part of it is just injuries. Second, it's Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Both guys, one guy sat out the year and he went 5 overall. The other guy was the number 1 overall pick and led arguably the greatest college team ever and made the Bengals respectable. Good luck, kid. It's like I can't get behind the development of their defensive backs this year. You know, when ultimately the thing with corners, probably a little bit like I would say running backs in a lot of teams, right? Just naturally, guys end up playing where. Why didn't you just play some of these young guys, even if it was just in rotational situations? I understand with the quarterback. Well, I disagree. You know, I understand. I disagree in terms of like not, you know, infusing him in. But I do understand what he's saying. Like, I don't know what's coming. He's not lying. But with DBs, you can rotate however you want, right? Like if you wanted to be like, hey, Josh, you come off every other series. Like, it's like, okay, whatever. It's not, wide receivers do it. Debo and right, you can transition however you want, and they've shit the bed a little bit on that situation to put a kid in a tough spot.
I agree to a point, but then I disagree strongly on one part of that, which is I'm with you. They have not developed these 2 corners who they need, Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore. But I also don't think being in a game and looking bad in a game is proof that you should have played earlier, because if that's what you look like in practice, the conclusion shouldn't be, well, he's getting burned in practice. Let's put him in more games to help him develop in games.
The other guys are getting smoked too, guy. I get it. If like
I get it, but at the end of the day, like they're all practicing together. They want these guys. They want Diamador Lenore and Ambry Thomas badly to be contributors. I would think they would give them. I'm not going to say the benefit of the doubt, but they would love for them to be on. They would love for these guys to be on the field. I do think the way they handled Ayuk buys them a little bit of leeway here and understanding that maybe these guys haven't earned the right to play. Like you get your playing time.
But it goes back to all their DBs, besides like Mosley, who's just in and out of the lineup with injuries, are getting smoked. So like, why is Norman on scholarship?
Well,
that's just my question.
Yeah, Norman's at least I think trustworthy probably to them. We know what you're getting out of him. He's going to get burned. He's going to miss some tackles, but he forces fumbles. Whatever. I'm not a big fan, but I think he's better than Ambry Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, Ambry Thomas was getting spun like a dreidel all day today.
So I guess my point is, in conclusion, you and I reached the same conclusion. It is on them that they either misidentified him or haven't developed him. I wouldn't just give him playing time if he looks bad in practice, right?
No. But my point is, when you already have a bunch of question marks at that position,
I hear
guys,
I'm saying,
you can just infiltrate them in throughout the season and just give them certain situations.
Maybe. I'm just saying I think it's reasonable to watch him and go, the other guys that look bad in games look better than him in practices.
It's been pretty bad all the way around for the.
I know, but I mean, he got burned so bad on that Chase play, and again, Chase is good that he couldn't even get close enough to commit. He tried to commit an intentional pass interference on the game-tying touchdown, and he was so far behind he couldn't do that.
What about the other play that he gave up where Joe Burrow looked like Tony Romo and Jamar Chase just kind of ran and just.
I thought that was Hufanga who got lost there on the end back line.
Him too, but I mean, Chase was on him to begin with.
That's a tough play. Like, yeah, I mean, that one is like scramble drill. It's hard. Like, I don't know how long you can cover.
Sometimes you got to tip your hat to the offense, right? I mean, there's two
Yeah.
guys making remarkable plays that, I mean, they made Ed Ogeron a millionaire, right?
Max said, let's just hit a couple comments here, John, on the stream. People reacting. Max says Jimmy Garoppolo was good at the end. Agree?
Well, he did throw the pick six that got dropped, at the end of regulation. The
Well,
final
in that
drive,
case,
he
he
was
took the
the final
touchdown
drive. He
guy.
was good. The
He got
one
him in
play
field
that got
goal
him into field. Yeah, was that a good throw or just an incredible catch?
Incredible. The Kittle catch was more incredible catch than good throw. Put it only where he can catch it, John.
Yeah.
But I give Kittle catch on that. But, I thought there were times where Jimmy threw into traffic in tough spots and completed the ball, both to Ayuk. And it was a trust your stars kind of game. Ayuk and Kittle and Debo. Juwan Jennings. I remember you and I did a video when Juwan Jennings was drafted. And for a year at the time, we said, he's not going to contribute right away. He didn't. But it was clear they liked him, developed him, whatever. I don't know who specifically gets the credit. He is. What game was it? The Seahawks, the first Seahawks game. Well, there was a game early in the year. No, I think it was a win where he was in a lot, didn't get any targets, but was blocking and blocking and blocking. I mean, Juwan Jennings deserves a major tip of the cap because he has earned his playing time based on his blocking first and foremost. And he's actually become a guy who's made some big plays for them receiving. And, again, I don't know specifically who gets all the credit, but it starts with him. He gets a ton of credit because he earned his way on.
I call him Crabtree.
Have to.
Yeah, looks like Crabtree. A little bit bigger version of Crabtree.
Looks like him a lot.
Yeah, I
Crabtree,
like Crabtree Jr.
Crabtree, as we looked at his college numbers over the weekend, because you pulled up Devontae Adams' college numbers over the weekend. Crabtree's college numbers over the weekend were just stupid. I mean,
they were basically identical, the two of them.
Yeah.
And
Crabtree won the Biletnikoff. I did. I had looked at Crabtree's a couple days ago, and when you posted Devontae's on Friday, I was like, God damn, I think those were as good as Crabtree's numbers when he was by far the best receiver in college football. I mean, dominant. And they were almost identical.
Devontae got, I think, kind of screwed because he wasn't a Power 5 guy. Because if you did that at Washington or Texas, no way Devontae Adams goes in the first round. Right? Yeah. No, he had 233 catches in 2 years and 38 touchdowns. 24 his sophomore year.
You say the same thing about Derek Carr at that time. We'll get off track here, but didn't Crabtree have like a crazy game-winning touchdown against Texas or something like that?
Yeah, he held the ball out, remember?
Yeah. So he had his Biletnikoff moment.
Crabtree was sweet. I mean, I'm a Crabtree fan, and when I say that, it's not a shit talking. I always like Michael Crabtree, and I like that number 15 just kind of works on wide receivers. I like a good odd number on my wide receiver.
David C. on the stream says this was a battle of who could do enough not to lose. They both wanted to beat themselves.
The Niners were definitely getting some football gods throwing them some bones. They had a muffed punt twice in the first half. And they
stepped up, John. Their special teams really stepped up.
They recovered a couple muffed punts. They had a missed field goal. Jamar Chase, he had some drops early in the game. You're like, oh, I see. The drops have been an issue for him.
First drive, he had a big third down drive.
Now, you also see enough where you're like, yeah, I'd live with the drops, because he had 2 drops, but he also had 5 for 77 and 2 sweet touchdowns.
Are you counting the drop touchdown, quote unquote, as a drop?
I'm counting. What was the drop touchdown?
The ball that hit the ground.
Yeah, that's kind of unfair, huh? That's a really tough catch. I would probably not, but I bet he would tell you I'm a Pro Bowl level guy. I got to make, I'm a number 5 overall pick. I got to make that catch. But You're right. That's a difficult catch. But I think you can see he's not always. And I read some quotes that he had this week. He's like, sometimes I double catch. I just got to get better. Like I think he's still fighting it for a guy that clearly, if that goes away, like if he just in the next couple of years or drops on an issue, you're looking at a star player.
Yeah,
I mean, he already borderline.
He's he's just terrifying. When Fred Warner yelled tails, and it was heads, and Fred went back. If you didn't see the coin toss, I tweeted the video. Fred Warner, it felt like they just lost the football game when they lost the coin toss. In his mind, he's like, ah, shit, 20's about to get 9 throws his direction. He backed away. I've never seen. He walked away. The ref's like, hey, what side do you want to defend, man? Fred was gone. He thought he was lost the game.
He was rattled. But here's the thing.
Because of Chase is my point. Higgins.
And Higgins. I mean, you're looking at two guys that accounted for 10 touchdowns, 100 and, basically 200 yards, a couple touchdowns, and Burrow. Like you're looking at the number 1 overall pick, the number 1 pick in the second round in Higgins, the number 5 overall pick. Like, you're facing 3 blue chip. I mean, Chase and Burrow truly are. I think Higgins is becoming he's got to be right now one of the better number 2 wide receivers in the league. Like, you just watch him. He's big. He's fluid. Like, it's just, you're playing 2 good, that's a really good offense. Mixon's a stud. That Huzama guy, I mean, who's been making plays since that Thursday night game, he's fucking pretty good.
Yeah.
Boyd's not bad. That's a real team. That's a real balanced, offensive firepower that the Niners were just holding on for dear life. This goes back to what I'm saying about Ambry Thomas. It's a very difficult spot. And again, the reason he started was because Mosley, has a high ankle sprain. But that's a tough spot to come in as a rookie corner in December and you've never started a game.
Yeah.
Regardless how it got there, I'm giving him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. That's just
giving him some grace, John.
Well, hasn't Chase and these guys been lighting every dude they've been playing? They lit up Marlon Humphrey. They've attacked good DBs.
Yeah, I honestly, it's crazy for maybe we disagree with some people. I didn't watch Ambry Thomas and think this guy just can't play, given who they played. Next week Atlanta, put him back out there.
Oh,
I'm with you on that.
They don't have a choice, really.
Yeah, no.
But this is what I'm saying. So, Atlanta is a much easier test next week than these guys. Even though, as we'll get into it, for whatever reason, when the Niners play the Falcons, that game always feels tight. You and I went to the stick game when the Niners were good and the Falcons were terrible, barely beat them. This year, the Niners, I would imagine, are going to be a 5-6 point favorite going into that game. I will not bet the Niners -6. I can already tell you that. If that's the number, 6 or higher, I ain't touching that.
Well, here's what's happened consistently, and I had someone tweet at me today, why is this your lock? I'm in the third quarter, I was like, well, what do you mean? Why is it not my lock? Our lock. The Niners do this where the Lions game was a warning on how to start the year, how some of these games are going to look, where sometimes they don't score touchdowns late in the second half, not late, just in the second half. Games that they should pull away that you think are 14-point games that should become 28-point games just stay 14-point games or 13-point games or a missed extra point or a missed field goal. So, they're better than Atlanta, but it feels like here's the one thing. Atlanta's had plenty of practice defending wide receivers that are running backs because that's what Cordero does. That's all really,
Well, Al-Shaair hurt his elbow. They immediately say questionable, which clearly, I think most NFL teams, when a guy has an injury that's not like an ACL, they say questionable, right? That's not like your season's over. Within 20 minutes, they called him out. That's something to keep an eye on. He had, I think, 11 tackles when he went out. He was
still led the team for the game.
He is a tackling machine. So when him and Fred are on the field together, their team speed at linebacker is pretty good. So even when they miss tackles, the one thing I noticed today, and this goes back to the Bengals, they have really good skill guys. They have guys that just make guys miss in open space. I don't get that mad if T. Higgins or Jamar Chase or Joe Mixon make you miss. They make everyone miss. But those guys are there fast. So, and Al-Shaair has become, I'd have to get into the weeds and text some people that are really banging the tape. But I think he's had a better season this year than Fred Warner. So, but even Fred, even if he's not having the best season, he's still damn good. So you get the both of them on the field. That's a lot of tackling power between those two guys.
Yeah, they both had a shot at the pick that turned into the Jamar Chase first down play late in the game, regulation. But he's everywhere. 51's everywhere.
He's a good player. So you just got to pray that it's not whenever the team does out, that's usually not it's just a little nick and bruise. Could be the season, right?
What did they do when Debo was out? Did they go questionable? Or did they say out?
They went questionable.
What's
his name? They went out was McGlinchey.
Yeah,
he had the thing with this. They just go out. You're like, oh, that ain't good.
E-Rock Village says, do you think we got good Jimmy or bad Jimmy Garoppolo today? I think you got good plus Jimmy. In winning time, let's pull up overtime here. Kittle for 8 yards. Then they get the false start on Kittle. Okay. Garoppolo then hits Juwan Jennings for 25. Then he hits Kittle for 21. Then, the dump down to Hasty.
How
then
many
Debo
yards?
carry. Hasty?
Yeah.
3.
Okay.
Then Debo carry for 2. Are you doing math over there?
Mm-hmm.
You want me to start back up?
No, I got you. I wrote it down.
Then Garoppolo to Kittle for 9. He gets 11 yards on the Ayuk play. I mean, which he actually should. I mean, it was a throw. But, I mean, it's designed a little differently. But,
How many yards was the Ayuk touchdown?
11.
So he was 6 of 6 for 77 yards on that play, on that drive. You can't ask for anything
That's
more.
good, Jimmy. I mean, it's like, that's Jimmy is actually the better way to put it. And this is why I say, like, we go back and forth on him all the time. He can win you games. He can lose you games. He can almost throw a pick six. He can throw a touchdown. The thing that there's really one thing that you never get from Garoppolo, and that's hitting deep balls. That's it. And we saw it again today. Like, should Travis Benjamin have caught the ball? Yes. Was it a 61-yard? The ball had a hang time of 3.38 seconds. I timed it at 61 yards down the field, the ball that Benjamin had to come back to. It happened like 10 minutes after Justin Herbert threw his touchdown throw. So Garoppolo's went 61 yards in 3.38 seconds. Herbert's went 63 yards, 2 yards further in 3.03 seconds. So 3 seconds, 0.3 of a second faster, which doesn't sound like much, but it's the difference between a completion and incompletion. And it's not a new shocker. We know he doesn't have Justin Herbert's arm.
You remember Raul Mondesi?
Yeah.
Right fielder for the Dodgers?
Yeah.
Did he have a cannon? He had a cannon tattooed on his arm. And I was just thinking, like, I would say Ankiel. There have been several guys that just in the outfielder. The A's guy, is it not Luzardo, Larinato, whatever their outfielder that throws fucking hoses from the outfielder, the little guy.
Ichiro, I'd say.
You can just throw like balls on a rope, even if it's like even Herbert's today goes high, but it had a lot of power behind it. It felt like Jimmy was Coco Crisp in the outfield, put his entire body on the ball, and it still barely got there, and it just hung and hung and hung and hung. Is it his fault that he didn't catch it? Of course not. They dabble play to Travis Benjamin. But his arm is just, pretty weak.
What it is. Yeah. But again, that's not like my point is, and when I bring that up, that's a great point. Herbert does throw like a baseball player. Herbert was a pitcher. Herbert's deep ball, you know whose deep ball it looks like actually? With more consistent accuracies, Kaepernick's. Just it's a long ball. You know what I mean? Like it just cuts.
Guy, he was moving, stopped, and the guy never broke stride. That has to be the best throw of the season so far, right?
I mean, I would guess if we collected the 10 best throws of the season, there'd be another Herbert throw or 2 in there.
It was sweet. He's a badass.
Yeah. Moose says Mondesi is in jail in the Dominican Republic right now. He was a corrupt mayor and took money. LOL.
He was a little ahead, before his time. He would have been.
But that prison league baseball team, John, he's batting cleanup.
The one thing, the Trey Lance conversation that we would have done if they lost, which would have been, I think, valid. Where I would defend Kyle's pushback to everyone that would want to see him in a tight game. Like, let's say Trey had been in the second half, or really just the fourth quarter as the game got tight and you had to make big throws. The one thing Jimmy has that I just would not have faith that he has, his knowledge of the playbook that allows Kyle to call every play, and whether the ball's in the right spot or not in terms of he gets it out fast enough, the trajectory on the ball, he knows where he's supposed to go with the ball, given the play and given their coverage. And I do think in this, like today, I don't know if you win this game, Trey, tie game, fourth quarter, right, overtime. Like, I would not have any confidence. It's unfair, right? It's Ambry Thomas level. It's never rep this out.
Yeah, part of talking about Trey Lance, which is not a big conversation today, like you said, because they won, but it's all, that conversation is not 100% Trey Lance is better than Jimmy, you'll win more games with him. It's part of that conversation is about player development. It's never been Trey Lance is way better than Jimmy Garoppolo. It's never what it's been. It's about that and balancing. Okay, you better win games this year or else you're going to not win games and not develop your quarterback, and that's bad.
I actually think you're going to need a little bit to totally justify it because next year you're starting from scratch. I mean, you had a game and a half.
Yeah.
And it's hard to even count the half because he kind of got thrown in without knowing it was coming. Is that, people would like to see having like an upset playoff win to be like, okay, it was all worth it. Like remember the Bears made the playoffs last year, guy, against the Saints, and they lost by like 30, and everyone's like, what's the point of this?
Yeah, I agree. You can't the week the Niners make the playoffs, if that's what they do, it'll all feel worth it. The second they play a wild card game and are one and done and then turn the page, you'll go, wait, what? That all of that was for that? So Dante Johnson, by the way, who was not with the team, Kyle Shanahan said he was not with the team. Member people said personal issue. His mother died because of a heart attack, so that's why he was not with the team.
That's terrible.
That's why Ambry Thomas was starting a quarterback. That's very terrible.
Jeez.
But yeah, I don't. Sorry, that's just the news. Days the news. There's no way to softly.
But I mean, he was. All these guys are dropping like flies. Like he was just clearly they were going to have to. He was going to play, right? I mean, if Deontay Johnson plays in this game and gets hurt in the first play, like he's coming in. I mean, he was right. He was. They were at the point now where he was, in the mix.
Right.
He was last week.
All right. So look at this. Debo, 8 carries, 37 yards in the game, or it might have been 36. He had 1 catch for 1 yard in the game. Ayuk, 6 for 62 and a game-winning touchdown. Kittle, 13 for 151 and a touchdown. Those 3 guys accounted for 72% of the 49ers offense. You got some yards from Jeff Wilson. You got some big yards from Jennings. You got a few yards from Juszczyk and Hasty. But the big 3 on offense, Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, 72% of the offense. It's funny, really, Jeff Wilson had more yardage than Debo Samuel did, but Debo scored that huge touchdown. On defense, Nick Bosa, 2 sacks, 2 hurries, 2 TFLs. I don't know what the final grade will be, play after play after play, but he disrupted every play, it felt like. I think watching him today, it kind of hit me. I think one of the most remarkable things about Nick Bosa is that it looks like he never gets tired. He is as impactful in the fourth quarter as he is in the first quarter, and actually he might be more impactful in the fourth quarter than he is in the first quarter because he's going at the same speed that he was when the game started, and the offensive linemen who've been trying to block him all night can't possibly be.
I think Khalil Mack had like a 2-year stretch where his effort level, consistently play in, play out, was as good as it gets. I think J.J. Watt had probably a 3-year stretch because it's just hard. I mean, eventually you get injured. You just kind of got to save yourself. Bosa's having, a season where his motor consistently, every game, all game, every snap, every rep is just at a 10. And really, guy, if you remember, there was a hands of the face that he got a sack. I mean, he would have had more. He would have had another sack that got negated.
On Ambry Thomas.
On Ambry Thomas, which I think, the hands of the face, that play call or that penalty is a little ticky-tack, but I get it, the letter of the law. I just forwarded you something in your DMs about George Kittle. It is a remarkable stat. This is the 4th time in his career that he has had 150 yards and a touchdown. That broke a tie with Shannon Sharp for the most by a tight end in NFL history. So 150 yards receiving in a game and a touchdown. I think we think of it because all these tight ends are like wide receivers. It doesn't happen that often. Like the Kelce's, the Gronks, this guy in his last 2 games, against Seattle in the loss, he was 9 for 81, and then today he was 13 for 150. These numbers are not normal for tight ends, right? Because even Kelce, in the peak of his powers, when he's averaging 10 catches, probably a little less than that, I guess, for 16 games, but 7-8 catches a game, a lot of his work is within 20 yards of the line. Kittle they run him on go routes. Part of what Kelce has that Kittle doesn't is Kelce has his teammate is one of the greatest deep threats. So that's where they balance out. Kittle sometimes is used to stretch the defense, right? Run him down the seam. They run him on deep flag routes toward the corner of the end zone, or definitely just the corner, of the sideline. But he's running longer breaking routes, right? And even it's kind of crazy that Gronk's not on this list. But as a tight end, it's difficult to get 150 yards. That's pretty crazy. It shows you what a great player Shannon Sharp was in the peak of his powers.
That's an incredible stat. I think
really
you go
is.
back to the Seattle game where he had the game that they needed him to have, right? 9 for 181, 2 touchdowns. So he's had, what did we just say? He's had 4 in his career?
Yeah, it's his tight end record now. 4 games the most for any tight end with 150 yards and a touchdown in a game.
It's the second in as many weeks. Shannon Sharp had the lead, was ahead of Kittle 2 weeks ago.
I know
so Kittle's had 2 in 2 weeks. Is he going to have another one in this week against Atlanta?
I mean, he's liable to do it at any moment.
Is he going to go 3 straight? I mean, has anyone ever done that? I can't imagine. Yes, if the record's 4.
Well, I think what's crazy about George.
Tony Gonzalez never did this.
I know. Well, because again, guys, they're not running as far. Like Jimmy, maybe. But Tony Gonzalez is not running as far down the field as you think.
Well, I'm just saying, like, there are guys. My point is, there are receiving first tight ends who haven't done this. This guy blocks. This guy does everything, and he still produces like he's playing just for Sean Payton, and he's split out, and he's trying to convince the arbitrator he's a receiver.
I don't want to say he was having a down season because he got banged up. The quarterback situation was a disaster, but he has 57 catches on the season. He has 22 the last 2 weeks. So he's going to end up with a 75 catch season. But at one moment you're like, is Kittle only going to have like 40 catches? This is what makes him a truly unstoppable player. And I think Debo's going to fall into the same category because his receiving stats are not going to look as good as they should, but they've used him as a running back the last like 3 or 4 weeks, right? So it's like he was fine. He was accumulating yards. You had to watch, like if you just came back and hovered on the Niners, on their skill guys, and just looked at Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle, and just looked at their stats, they're not going to lead the league in anything, like those 3 guys. But if you've watched, especially the second half of the season, as they've clawed their way back, they have been remarkable. And they had to be today on a field with star players. Like Joe Burrow is going to get $150 million one day. Jamar Chase is a star wide receiver into his rookie season. T. Higgins, I don't think you can ask for anything more out of a second-round pick, right? He's been awesome for them. What they've like, teams would die if they T. Higgins second round. Like that's awesome. That's a fantastic draft pick. Joe Mixon is on a big contract. Like they got studs, and the Niners studs were better.
Trey Hendrickson too. I would say. I mean,
stud, and he got knocked out of the game.
Yeah,
that guy's fucking pretty big and good.
Walked off on his own power, but you saw in the first series of the game, he got a sack on that first third down.
Yeah, and I think did they call him also for a hold? Like Trent got called on a holding, which is a little ticky-tack on him. Like that guy's good. That guy's 8 straight games with a sack. That guy. So you're playing a team with.
I mean, he was an All-Pro last year. An All-Pro might have been the most unnamed All-Pro in the NFL in 2020.
That's my point. You were playing a team with. I just think us coastal elites. We just not watching that many Bengal games.
But I don't think anyone went into this game thinking they sucked.
No, I know, but I don't think we quite. You and I did, but just the casual fan, which understandable. I'm not even talking shit. They have star power, and the Niners' star power didn't match them. They overcame them. They had to. Like the Falcons next week don't have that level of star power. Like this was. Those guys just kept coming.
Yeah, if you said to me, why did the Niners win this game? I'd say they're stars plus, and you pointed this out while we were watching the game. The Niners' defensive line is pretty. It starts with Nick Bosa. But it doesn't end with Nick Bosa. Like, they are a relentless defensive line, and maybe part of it is it feels like Bosa plays every snap, and then there's 9 other guys that are rotating and making a bunch of plays for them at different points. In every game, one of their guys makes a bunch of plays for them. And it feels like it's been different every week. DJ Jones made a couple of big plays. I know they lost the Seattle game, but DJ Jones makes big plays. It's just Amanihu made a big play today on that pass deflection. They just, I mean...
Not sure Ebukam did anything, but the other guys did.
Yeah, Ebukam had 2 quarterback hurries and a forced fumble.
Do you know what they got Trey Hendrickson for? Like, this is what the Niners need to do this offseason. They need to locate a Trey Hendrickson and sign him for 4 years, $60 million with a $10 million signing bonus and $16 million
guaranteed at signing. The guy was an
signing.
All-Pro last year.
He got $16 million guaranteed at signing. That's what they gave him.
He was an All-Pro. How does that happen? He's an All-Pro.
Yeah,
not a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro.
$16 million, guy. That's what they gave him. This is 2021, right?
Yeah. Those are 21. Those are not 21 numbers.
They essentially, do you know how great this contract is? It's essentially a 1-year deal, which I got news for you. They're not going to cut him. But that's what, like we talk about star player, part of as they transition, they are going to have the opportunity because guys like that hit free agency for whatever reason. You could probably nitpick him. He might be a little stiff, whatever. And you're going to have some cash. If you can nail a couple signings, you can accumulate a couple more impact guys because your core guys, Kittle, Warner, none of these guys are going anywhere. Debo, Ayuk, right? Trent, like you have a core group of studs. You are going to have now then the whole other question is like, can Trey then be good? But utilize that little extra nut you got, which 25 from Jimmy, the extra money you just get from the salary cap going up. The Niners are going to have a decent amount of wiggle room.
By the way, I'd say to the Saints, like, how do you guys have no cap?
Well, they don't have any cap. They don't. They have none.
How? I know.
Because they pushed Drew Brees' contract back for like 17 years.
I know. I think they're paying him like $12 million this year against the cap.
Can you imagine that? Like, is that got to be the worst feeling? The Niners haven't quite gone through this yet. I guess they actively chose to get rid of Buckner. But it's like, we would love to keep this guy, but we literally don't have any money.
And then he turns out to be cheap.
You're like, Jesus, exactly.
Like, all right,
so
it was $60 million guaranteed. Fine. No, it was 16.
I'm sorry, some heads would have rolled before I would have let that guy walk for $16 million.
So, I mean, all right, the playoff picture now, it was funny. They showed the update during the game, and it hit me while I'm watching the game. Like, man, they could lose this game and be in okay shape. You and I were talking as the game was unfolding. Does a tie help them more than a loss? Probably, because they'd be six. They would have been 6-1.
Yeah.
Right, which is, by the way, Pittsburgh's record at the moment, which doesn't help them because the AFC is better than the NFC. But
when you're 6-1, you're destined for 8-1. I feel that there can't be a worse record in the 17-game schedule history than 8-1 of a non-losing record.
That's what you think the Steelers are going to be?
That's just that sucks.
Oh yeah, I know. Honestly, but it doesn't feel as. I mean, 8-9 does feel worse. I'd rather be 8-1, obviously, but just 8-9 is such a weird combination of numbers for a record.
If you're gonna miss the playoffs either way, I do feel it allows you to like be a little bit more, take harder stances on things. 8-1, we're like, we're close. It's like, no, you really weren't.
I know, but now they're 7-6.
Yeah, they're in good shape.
Now they're 7-6. Washington is 6-7 in the 7th spot. Niners are in the 6th spot. Minnesota 6-7. Philly 6-7. Atlanta 6-7. New Orleans 6-7. They've beaten Minnesota. They've beaten Philadelphia. Washington lost to the Cowboys on Sunday, and they play Atlanta, who's 6-7, coming up next.
Pretty big, I would say, swing this week coming up. So you get the Niners game. The Niners can knock Atlanta out, right? And they should. Like, there's going to be no excuse. They're going to be favored at home. You got to fucking win that game. You're playing Matt Ryan. You're playing a below-average Falcon team. I looked at their not over-under, but their point differential. It's really bad. It was, I think, 100 points. It was really, really shitty. And the Washington plays the Eagles. So one of those teams has to lose. So if you win this game, it's why I said last week, if you would have won that Seattle game, it'd be over right now. Like, you'd be in cruise control. You're still fighting, but you win this weekend, someone has to lose the Eagle-Washington game. And I think for your sake, you kind of want Washington to just get knocked out there because you don't play them and you have the tiebreaker with the Eagles.
Yeah.
So I think you just root for the Eagles. And Minnesota, they play the Bears. Somehow, do you know who the Monday Night Football game is next week?
It's the Bears again? Because they're the Sunday night game.
It's the Bears are playing Minnesota. That's a terrible Monday Night Football game. The Minnesota's finished. They get the Bears twice, Rams, Packers. So they probably go 2-2. So they probably go 8-9. Worst case potentially.
Yeah. So what do you think the 7 seed will be? 8 wins.
I think the 7 seed. I think the 7 seed 8-9 might get you in.
Yeah.
I think the Niners have a chance to go 10-7. Because they still got I almost said the Astros. They got the Texans, who is, you already know that game's going to be way closer than it should be, but they're going to win that game.
Well, will they do what Seattle did today when that game was closer than it should be, but then it finished 33-13?
That's what it feels like. Yeah, because at one point in time it was 10-10. I think they were losing.
Yeah, it was 16-13 at halftime. It was
for
19-13 going to the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So you can win that game. You win this weekend. That's 9. Can they either win Tennessee or L.A.? Now, the L.A. game, which we've already talked about, depending on what happens tomorrow, depending on the seeding, depending on a lot of things, that game might matter. It might not. There is a chance, an outside chance, that game is for the 5 seed, right? If L.A. loses tomorrow, slips up again. See, Darrell Henderson went on the COVID list, so they're running backs. Maybe we shouldn't put that bet in.
Oh, really? Did you not put it in already, or you did?
I haven't put it in yet.
I think 2 more wins get you in the playoffs if you're the Niners. 2-2 down the stretch because of some of the tiebreakers. I don't feel amazing about it. I'm just saying I think that's what happens. Football teams got the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants. Are they going to win 3 of those 4?
No.
I don't think so. Although they have won 4 in a row at one point this year against the Bucks, Panthers, Seahawks, Raiders.
I watching the football team, my takeaway is they're probably a little scrappier than the Eagles. The Eagles have higher end talent. It feels like those 2 teams split. And they both probably end up right around 8 and 9.
Because the Eagles Dallas still play in 2 weeks.
Well, the Eagles play them twice. They play Dallas and they play the Giants. So, could the Eagles win 2 more games? I feel like the Eagles might be more likely to get to 8th than the football team.
Which is fine for the Niners. Actually better.
Yeah. And I feel like Minnesota probably gets to 8 and 9. They just have a lot of talent. They just got a couple guys that can. You saw on Thursday night. I mean, Cook and Justin Jefferson at any moment could be the best players on the field. They kind of have what the Niners have. Their best players can just take over a game.
Are the Cowboys going to need to play Week 18 against Philly?
No, probably not. I feel like Cowboys got hats and T-shirts maybe by Christmas.
Yeah. So
because they're an Eagles loss away from being in full control. Or if the Eagles win that game and they're 7-7, what's the Cowboys' record right now?
They're 9-4. I mean, they're 3 up in the loss column right now in second place. So they are.
And
well
they've already beat the Eagles once, so they can already split and be in cruise control. I think the Cowboys are in pretty good shape. Do you know who the Cowboys have this week? The Giants. I think the Cowboys probably the division might be over by the end of next week.
Yeah. So they won't. That's their week. Dallas week 17 or Philly's week 17 is Dallas. So Philly might win that game.
Yeah. Because Dallas has to play the following week. They're the 4 seed. You just rest your guys.
Protect Dak. McCarthy.
Which the Niners might run into.
Won't the Niners be playing for seeding, though, says David?
Probably not.
Home field?
Who?
Dallas. First round.
I mean, we just got to see where Arizona might have it locked up. It depends what their record is and Tampa record is, right? Tampa already beat Dallas.
Does Dallas automatically finish ahead of the Rams even if they have a worse record? If they're a division winner? I don't remember how it works with division winners. They do, right?
The division winners are
they could be
remember football team got a home game last year against the
right.
Bucs.
Good call. So they're in good shape.
Do you like that rule?
I mean, I actually don't mind it.
My issue with the rule is last year a football team rule under 500. I don't mind it if
every time that happens, people hate it, but
I don't mind it if they're 10-7. That's shit luck. But if you're 8-9, you win a division, you host a team that's 12 wins. That feels kind of shitty.
It does, but to me, it's enough of an oddity that whatever. It doesn't bother me. I don't think as much as it bothers most people. But divisions in the NFL don't matter that much. EKBZ says, "Give me Mike McCarthy in the first round." I mean, you're probably not getting him, right?
Probably not. No.
2-7,
Rams.
3-6, 4-5. You're not. Yeah, you might be getting LaFleur though. Green Bay.
Well, that's where the Seattle loss kills them. Because if they had won this game, instead of being 7-6, you'd be 8-5, and you'd just be right there nipping at their heels. But they do have if they were to upset the Cardinals tomorrow, they have a multi-game lead. It's a lot to make up to with only a couple games left, right?
There is a weird level of it's not weird. I understand it. Level of Niner confidence when it comes to Green Bay, though.
I have a harder time with Aaron like this version of Aaron the last couple of years, how well he's played with this Niner defensive backfield. Feels like and the guy that had 24 touchdowns at Fresno State his sophomore season. 24 touchdowns. 24.
Yeah. I mean, I went to some of those games. North Dakota couldn't stop him, I think. But yeah.
New Mexico, I think he had 6 touchdowns. I mean, he ate him alive, yeah.
It was just Derek Carr was just heaving bombs.
Well, let's just
that's
really quick
in the NFL now.
For the Niners, could they catch the Rams? Let's just look at the Rams. They have 5 games left. Okay. At the Cardinals,
Rams are 8-4, Niners are 7-6.
The Rams are an underdog. Could easily lose that game. Seattle, which you know what's crazy is Seattle is just they still have stuff to play for, which is nuts because if they were on the table, they could get the 7 seed.
They get to 8 wins, yeah.
Then they play the Vikings, which
Russ has never finished worse than 8-8.
The Vikings are going to be playing for their fucking life. That game's going to be big. Then they get the Ravens, which, regardless of what you think about the Ravens, that team just does not die.
Where's that game?
At Baltimore. So they go back-to-back weeks, week 15 and 16, at Minnesota, at Baltimore. Like that's
Baltimore just tough. Plays in scrappy, close, ridiculous games.
And even if he did roll his ankle and he misses a couple games, that's he's got some time to get healthy. And then they play the Niners.
I mean, Ravens came back with Tyler Huntley,
18.
And then they have who? The Cardinals, 18, week 18.
The Niners play the Rams week, the final week of the season. And so
far. Oh, gotcha.
So they go Cardinals, Seattle, Mini, Ravens, Niners. Tough little stretch.
Cardinals,
it's not easy.
Seattle, Minnesota,
Seattle's at home.
Ravens, Niners. Yeah, I mean Monday night. If they were to lose, then the Niners are really in pretty good shape, right? Because if the Rams lose, they're only 1 game better than the Niners, and the Niners know you play them at the end of the year.
Then you start rooting for Seattle to beat them.
Yeah, now you got to win your games, but you'd be in control. That means you win out, which separate conversation. You take their spot, right? Because then you'd be even with them in the loss column, but you beat them twice head to head.
Yeah. Even though I'm not exactly sure how that works. Sometimes like conference record, I'll have to look into that.
You don't think the first tiebreaker's head to head?
I don't think it usually is, but I sometimes I get confused with that with the wild card stuff. I think it depends if there's more than one team, but if you're right, if it's just the you,
you're right. If there's a 3-team tiebreaker,
but there wouldn't be. It'd just be you versus the Rams. So I would imagine if you've beat them twice, what the fuck's the point of having divisional games? I played them twice, and if we have the same record, that's a long way. I mean, we got a long way to go before we get there.
So actually, but you're not crazy. So to break a tie for a wild card team, if the clubs are tied from the same division, apply a divisional tiebreaker.
So it would be divisional record. It'd be your divisional record, which the Niners are 1-4. Now, if the Rams were to lose tomorrow, they would be 1-3. And then Seattle plays them, right? So it's what you need to happen wouldn't. It's not like the Rams right now are 3-0 in the division, right? With just one game, they've also fucked up. You want to root for the Cardinals tomorrow, and then you got to root for Seattle. And then you got Seattle. Would it be the most impressive Seattle season ever if they ended up 9-8 in the 7th seed? Would that be remarkable?
I'd be remarkable. Would everyone get extensions?
Is it out of the realm of possibilities? Can I just read you out Seattle's last 5 games?
Yeah.
They beat the Texans, then they play the Rams, then they get the Bears and the Lions, and then they get the Cards, which, who knows, maybe they have the number 1 overall seed locked up that week. If they can beat the Rams next week, they have 2 wins back-to-back, Bears-Lions. If they beat the Rams, guy, and they're 6-8, they will be 8-8 going into that Cardinal game. Just get ready for that. Next week is their Super Bowl.
Wow. Where's that game?
Which one?
Next week.
It's in LA. Which I mean,
that's not. Can we not flex a Monday night game? I mean, come on.
I know. I thought we could. That game's huge. That game is big.
Wow. This is fantastic. NFC playoff race could be incredible. Would all 4 of them get in that scenario? Is there a scenario where Seattle gets to 9? Yeah, the Rams are still getting in. The Niners would get in.
Yeah.
Cardinals are obviously in.
That'd be an incredible accomplishment for a division that looked like it was down and out to make all 4 teams. It's not the craziest thing.
I'm just trying to make sure that wild card scenario is not a 3-team tie that I just gave you. Might have to double check that.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. I mean, we're so fucking far away from the playoffs.
All right. If somebody's listening to this and I'm looking at the NFL tiebreaker scenarios here, it's just hard on the fly.
It's very confusing.
3 or more clubs.
It would be hilarious if the NFC West got all 4 teams. It'd be a big muscle flex for a division to look
after it had been like this division that we had built up, the AFC West. That's the real division. You know, that's a whole other conversation. But wow. I'm rooting for that. Seattle being relevant is just incredible. And especially once we fired everybody for them to come back.
I fired everyone like 7 times on that staff.
I'm not saying you can root, don't root for them, whatever. It's just, it's fantastic. By the way, we got this question. I parlayed the Niners and the Ravens on the advice of the Ham Pod. It was a wild ride, but it came through. We had a parlay today that was DEAD, dead. In the morning, it was, help me here, it was Ravens plus 2.5.
Yeah.
Football team plus 4.5.
Didn't hit. We only hit 2 of the 4 of them, so it doesn't.
Yeah, but those 2 teams were a combined down like I think it was like 22-0 and 18-0. I mean, it was ridiculous. I think it was like 40 points they were down.
Yeah, it was
football team had a field goal to get it to 4. They got blocked.
Well, Dak threw a pick six that got us right back in the game.
The Bills end up actually not covering because that game went to overtime. So,
but they got to overtime. You couldn't ask for anything more than that, right? Yeah. I mean, they were down 24-3.
That was 100 to win 1,200.
Tracy Wolfson said that Sean McDermott was despondent when she tried to talk to him going into halftime. He was just at a loss. He had no words for her.
They hadn't run the ball, John, once with a running back. It was 4 carries, all Josh Allen.
Well, but do you blame him? I mean, we just told him to pass the ball more. Don't run it. So he listened to us. Like, isn't that what everyone's been telling them? Throw the ball?
The Ravens, we were getting points with the Ravens, right?
Yeah, the Ravens covered.
Yeah, they didn't win,
the football team did not. The football team closed at 6.5. We got in early. It just kept going up. But it wouldn't have mattered. And the other game that did not cover was, the Bills, who looked like they were going to cover, and then they went to overtime, and they scored a touchdown. The walk-off touchdown is a pretty big kick in the dick, depending on what side you're on in a game, right?
If you haven't seen the Bucs one yet, watch that one. Because the Ayuk play, as hard as it was for a Bengals fan on walk-off loss in OT, it was just like a review, and then it hit you, and you see it. The Bucs play was hit a guy. He's running down the field. The camera starts zooming out, and you just realize there is nobody there, and he's just running and running and running and running and touchdown. It was pretty incredible. It was pretty incredible. How about the Robbie Gould field goal attempt to win the game, John? You know when you hit a driver and the guy standing behind you on the tee box, like, oh, nice drive, because it starts down the middle, but you know that your ball always slices hard right, and you're like, just give it a second. I know it looks like it's down the middle right now. Hang on. It'll take a hard right by that bunker, and sure enough, it goes. I mean, that was a roller coaster ride of a kick. Luckily, I had no confidence in him going into that kick, so I wasn't shocked when I don't even know what you call that type of miss, where like starts left, goes center cut, then hard cut right. I don't even know what that was.
Just awful. I don't know.
In the words of Joe Buck, a despicable act.
Yeah, Hightower is what I call it. He high-towered it.
It was like a slice, but it started out hard left. It was crazy. I didn't understand it. All right, John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about the wonderful product that is sleepnumber.com/ham. sleepnumber.com/ham. It is nearly New Year's resolution time. We've got the holiday season upon us. Make sleep your number one goal. Combine it with exercise, eating healthier, all that. It all starts with sleep at sleepnumber.com/ham.
Yep, sleepnumber.com/ham. Here's the thing, guy. Quality sleep is essential for optimal health, performance, and well-being. Lack of sleep can leave you feeling scatterbrained and cranky. I mean, I can attest to that. No sleep, cranky, angry, get the hell away from me. If you see me early in the morning, I didn't have a good night's sleep, some of my neighbors got to think I am an asshole. And I just want to tell them, I went to bed late, we're working, trying to pay the bills. But when I get a good night's sleep, hugging neighbors, saying hi to everyone, I could be at the gym at 6 in the morning like, oh, hey, Bill, hey, Mr. Johnson. You just feel
Romanowski?
better. Yeah, you feel Romo. Romo gets there like 9. He's not the earliest bird, but he's
somebody
retired.
tweeted in my timeline today an old video Romo on like Comcast Sportsnet postgame going, they suck. Everybody sucks. Everybody in the building sucks. This is awful, and I'm pissed. I was like, damn, he needs a sleep number.
Yeah, he does. He really does. So just avoid food or exercise before bed. The body needs at least an hour to recover. Proven quality sleep from home for the holiday. Save up to $500 on select Sleep Number 360 smart beds during Sleep Number's holiday savings event. Plus, special financing for a limited time only at Sleep Number stores or sleepnumber.com/ham. Subject to credit approval, minimum monthly payments required. See store for details. Sleep Number, proven quality sleep, life-changing. Sleepnumber.com/ham.
Did I start by reading an ad from the future there? I might have. But
I don't know.
That's okay. You saved it. Yeah. Good job. No, good job by you. Good job by you. I'm feeling pretty good coming into the show tonight because as the Niners game was hitting the third quarter, I brewed up the latest bag of coffee from Trade. Yeah. Have you delved in yet? Trade, John. Trade. It's delicious. I should have pulled the bag up over here with me, but drink Trade, baby. drinktrade.com/ham. Use the promo code ham and get your coffee game going.
Yep. Trade guarantees they'll match. What it is you go there, you pick gourmet coffees, you take a quiz, French press, automatic drip, cold brew, whatever you like. Then Trade will match the coffees you'll love from 400 plus craft coffees, and they'll send you freshly roasted bag as often as you like. So you'll always be ready. So when you wake up in the morning after a good night's sleep, you go to make your, brew a pot of coffee, and you got the best in the business because of our friends at Trade. They partner with 55 plus small US-based roasters. So you're keeping it local, you're keeping it domestic, you're helping the economy, and you don't get worked up because you have a great cup of Joe in the morning from
it was very easy
brewery.
I just did the quiz. It said, what do you like? It asked, how much do you know about coffee? And then it picks something for you, and then it delivers it right to you. I got it in 2 days. Oh. And Sightglass, I think, is the name of the coffee maker that it came from. And it was fantastic. For our listeners right now, Trade is offering a total of $20 off your first 3 bags at checkout. To get yours, go to drinktrade.com/ham and then use the code ham. So it's a double hammer. drinktrade.com/ham, code ham at checkout. Take the quiz to start your journey to the perfect cup. It's drinktrade.com/ham, promo code ham for $20 off your first 3 bags. And right now you're thinking you got some people out there that might need a gift for the holidays. This is a great gift. The coffee lover in your life would love the gift of better coffee with their personalized gift coffee subscription from Trade at drinktrade.com/ham, code ham.
Love it.
Go get it.
Do it.
All right. Well, I guess we'll probably scratch that Trey Lance conversation that we mentioned that we might have while we were watching the final moments of the Niner game. Did you happen to watch any of the Raider game today, John? Did you happen to see any of what transpired there today?
I actually did. And I have a routine in the morning. It feels like the Niners, 90% of their games are in the afternoon. So I do not watch 1 second of coverage before 10 o'clock. I don't watch any of the show. I despise them. So I don't always am locked into what game is coming up. And be honest with you, I didn't even realize this was Raider-Chiefs games or Raiders-Chief week, partly because the Raiders have become irrelevant. But then what I do is I'm on the phone, I'm on the internet. I actually had the golf on, the Greg Norman little 2-man tournament. And I see James Palmer, it starts going viral that the Raiders had kind of done a Gruden, and they didn't do a lap around the outside of Arrowhead. They had gone to the center of the field, Terrell Owens style, and had done a pump-up speech. And I was thinking, this is probably getting overhyped on Twitter. fucking a lot of people on the field. You and I, countless games in our lifetime, pregame, a lot of people, moving parts, hard to even tell what's going on. Not the case at all. Not a fucking soul on the field. The Chiefs were clearly all gone. It was just the group of Raiders, however many guys are dressed, 45 in the middle of the field, guy. And then they showed a replay as, I think, right as the game was starting. Ndakwe was waving them up. They were doing their normal thing, probably at like the 20-yard line or whatever. Like any team would have done, no one would have said a word. But they made a conscious effort following, one of their better players who's been there 9 games, telling them to come on down and let's, give a pump-up speech on what looks like them and the Patriots, the two cream of the crop. The Titans, too, if they got Derrick Henry report today. He's coming back.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like calling everybody over in school to your big fight and then getting punched in the jaw within the first 8 seconds, which is exactly what happened to them. Like, the reason, because I was on Twitter as that game started, I'm like, why is everybody watching Raiders Chiefs? Like, I couldn't quite figure it out. Everyone was reacting to the game because they had a fumble 6 in the first 8 seconds.
First play of the game.
Well, the reason they were watching the game is because Yannick Ngakoue threw up the bat signal. James Palmer tweeted it, and everybody's like, oh, shit, what's about to happen in this Raiders-Chiefs game? And the answer is the Chiefs are going to go up, 32, 33, whatever the score was, to nothing, and 35 to nothing in like less than 30 minutes. It was incredible. But it all started because the Raiders did this idiotic thing like they were about to smack Kansas City.
Do you agree that sometimes, and this is just true in pro sports, and I would just say the way the sport is covered now with social media, and I do think the word like clickbait can be overused. Like we don't get credit for clickbait. Now certain things like Florio, if you have a website, clickbait does matter. But if you just click on a podcast and listen for a second, like nothing happens. We don't get any money. So clickbait to me kind of universally gets used incorrectly a lot. But like a story like that can just go viral, sometimes it can not be true or can be like, I would just say the hyperbole behind the event can just kind of be an overreaction. And that's just kind of what I assumed. And then when you see the visual, it was the opposite. It was truly like, if I was a Chiefs fan, if I was a Chiefs player, I'd be like, what the fuck are these guys doing? And then like you said, it was 7-0 on the first play of the game, and by halftime, I was going to say it was 35-0, but no, the Raiders' gutless special teams coach, who I hear is a great guy, but as a head coach, and remember, we talked a lot of shit when Tom Sula did this years ago, to kick a field goal, to act like, oh, well, it's just, you got to get points on the board. You're down 35-0. You get zero credit.
Made it a 4-score game, John. It was going to,
you get zero credit.
4 touchdowns and 4 2-point conversions.
Now, as several people said on social media, they had to justify the money that they just gave to the guy holding the field goal and the guy kicking the field goal.
That was a good tweet.
And I said, okay, that makes a little sense. But there's nothing more embarrassing than just trying to get points, to be like, well, we got points. Well, you lost fucking 75-3, so no one cares.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've gone.
It's irrelevant.
This year's been a roller coaster for them, but this is what it should look like, because this is what it looks like all the time. Nothing has
final
changed.
Score of the game? Because I was going to look. I do.
48-3. 40.
It was 48-9.
48-9.
Renfro had a touchdown, and then he missed the extra point.
This tweet from PB Wilson on the internet. He was at the game. They played Wheels of the Bus go round and round at the end of the game in Arrowhead.
Can you play that? Oh, it won't play through the deal, huh?
Yeah. Wheels on the bus go round and round. I might be able to play it. I don't know. But yeah, Wheels of the Bus. Like, this happens every year, once a year, once every 2 years. There's just that league, that division, excuse me. The Raiders and the Chiefs play an important game that ends in a bloodbath. It happens all the time. Like, you can change coaches, you can change offensive linemen, you can change quarterbacks. Unfortunately, this is what the franchise is right now. It just is. It's now you could say, oh, it's just one game, whatever. They're not a playoff franchise. They are not a consistently competitive franchise.
Guy, 89-28. 89-28.
Those are the two Chiefs games?
Is the score of the two Chiefs games. I had forgotten the Chiefs scored, obviously they kicked their ass on that Sunday night game, 41-14. And we even said, like, that final score looked a little tighter than what we actually witnessed. Because I think remember they were on Monday night, they were on Sunday night, and then the Niners played the Rams on, Monday night. It was like a little bang banger. Listen, you kind of hinted at it. The Raiders, for a team that has been semi-competitive these last couple years, gets destroyed and blown out more consistently than any decent team. And obviously, they're no longer the Lions these last several years. Like, they have been much better. Last year, they went 8-8. The year before, they went 7-9. This year, they're going to end up, who knows, maybe 7-10 or whatever.
Yeah.
But, they probably should have been an 8 or a 9 win team, regardless.
They might get to 8.
For whatever reason, at Browns, Broncos, at Colts, Chargers, like, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. No. Are they going to be underdogs in every one of those games?
They get the Broncos at home, but I would say the Broncos
Vegas?
do feel better in Vegas.
Easy trip for Broncos fans.
That'll be a Bronco home game. I just think that, listen, was it Mark Davis's fault they lost today, or that John Gruden sent those emails, or that Henry Ruggs got in the car wreck? Of course not. But the one consistent theme of the last decade of them constantly, sometimes they win 4 games, this year they win 7. But they have the same game in every year more often than a lot of 8-8 teams. They have several games this season. Now, it all happened after the Ruggs thing, but still 41-14 against the Chiefs. The Bengals beat them 32-13. That is an ass kicking in the NFL. To me, 32-13 in the NFL is the equivalent of an Alabama, Florida, LSU type game where they beat their opponent 50-20. That's a bludgeoning. And then today was probably the biggest ass kicking of the year. 35-3 at halftime. What is the college equivalent to 35-3 at half? 55-7? 35 in the NFL?
When you texted me that today, my first reaction was, I think it might be worse than 55-7. But I think that's probably right.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel 35 points and a half for an NFL team is as hard as it can get? That's as much as they can score.
Yes, there's not enough time or possessions to score more than that.
Well, how many? Yeah. That's 7 touchdowns. How do you, that's 5 touchdowns. It's 5 7 points. How do you score 5? How many possessions you usually get a half? 6? That's obviously it takes a defensive score. You got to be remarkable. And they were. They were just kicking their ass. But they started kicking their ass with screens, and it's just this notion.
Was that Jamal Charles? Or no?
No, that was
what was the game?
That was Jamal Charles that hit him on the screens.
Yeah.
Same type deal. They hit him a couple today.
This week it was Jamal Williams.
Darrell Williams. Who's a sneaky. I didn't even realize he went to LSU. But this notion that the Raiders is some really good job, to me, more and more, I would say it kind of gets exposed. Do they have this great roster? Do they have all these good players? Now, Waller didn't play today. He was their best player in their team, but their defense stinks. It's not like everyone, Max Crosby's the next. He's got 5 sacks. He's fine. He's a good player. He's a solid player. But I was watching the broadcast, you haven't heard much of him lately. You see Chris Jones? That's what an all-pro, that's what a guy they gave $60 million to. See him today play Leatherwood? Leatherwood looked like me or you. So it's they just used a first-round pick on him, and there are other first-rounders they cut. This notion that, the Raiders are going to be some desirable job, if Mark's willing to give some of these guys $80 to $100 million, which...
We got to pick the right guy, which is still a coin toss.
Yeah, more than likely, they're just going to continue to suck for a while.
Look, I'm not shocked that... I gave him credit for that Dallas game. I didn't think they had that in them. We shouldn't be shocked. John Gruden, say what you want about his shortcomings. He is a good offensive coach. And he was a professional NFL head coach. Now, whether or not you think he's worth $100 million, he's a real NFL head coach. Agreed? They went from him to Rich Bisaccia, who I'm been rooting for. But it's not the same thing. So, of course, they're falling apart. That said,
Gruden doesn't quite feel what it did. Mel Tucker now gets 95.
No, it doesn't.
Rose
now it
came
feels
off
like a
balloon.
deal. Mark Davis is joke's on you, man. If I just kept him around, he would have been, I was saving money by year 5.
He was right. He was ahead of the curve.
Because the one thing that happens all the time is, you have a good year, you're 2 years away from your contract expiring, get an extension. 10-year contract, it's a ways away from having 2 years left on your contract. I got you locked in, dog. The difference in the NFL, nobody leaves with time. Like college coaches just fucking leave. Just, I'm out. It's like, wait a second, there's 5 years left on your deal.
I heard Peter Schrager say maybe a couple of weeks ago on Bill Simmons, like, I wonder if coaches in the pros are going to start thinking like this, if this is the going rate for how much you can make.
What, go to college?
No, I'm saying just like, I want to leave
away.
to go to the fucking 49ers. I want to leave the Saints to go to the Raiders. He's going to give me $150 million.
The problem for them is in the NFL, somebody is in charge. In college, nobody's in charge of the coaches.
Yeah. No.
Except Jimmy Sexton.
Yeah.
But, look, Gruden was 4-12, 7-9, 8-8, and this year it was at times looking good, but it wasn't guaranteed that they were going to make the playoffs, right? You agree with that? If Gruden was still the coach, would this definitely be a playoff team?
No. So
they hadn't nailed that hire. I've had this thought, and it's easy to make fun of me for this take. I know that. I'm going to say it. It's partly tongue-in-cheek, but partly not. If they ever got new ownership, I think they should consider changing their name and completely rebranding the organization. Now, that's not going to happen. They won't do that. The brand is powerful. I'm not trying to kick Raider fans when they're down. I have a lot of respect for Raider fans. You guys have been through a lot of shit. I mean that sincerely. We've talked to Raider fans over the years. But, I just wonder if there's just shy of a complete overhaul, a stench that you can't get out right now. Now, the fact is, even though I say that, the fact is just change of leadership is good enough. Changing your jerseys is far less important than changing your leadership. Changing your leadership matters more than anything else. And, if you figured it out, then it would make it all the sweeter if you could have the Raiders in the postseason. But right now, the identity is this. This is what the identity is of this franchise, unfortunately.
I think most people that would get really mad at you about changing the identity would be older people. Like, they just don't have that many young fans, and people can get mad at us. Like, we've seen the demos. There's a reason that, even while they were in this market, we talked a lot more about the other team in the market. They're just basic math. Now, listen, the football team did it. Now, it was forced upon them, but it's not that big a deal.
Like, kind of did it. Like, the colors are the same.
Well, yeah, to me, when you say rebrand, you mean change colors? Did you mention that too?
Oh, yeah. I changed the name. I changed the colors. The whole thing, the logo. The problem is the stadium's black and silver. But again, I say I would do it. I think it's a thought that I've had repeatedly. It really doesn't. It's not worth anything unless the leadership changes. And the leadership changing is far more important than changing your logo or your colors. But I would think about it in the end.
So let's say Elon or Bezos bought the team for $4.5 billion, and they said, "Hey, Middlekoff, Haberman, if you guys can scrap together $5 million, I'll give you a tiny little ownership. And you obviously you just sweeten stuff, but you can just run ideas through me. I know you guys are locked into football, and just I got fucking me and The Rock are flying to the moon, and I got supply chain issues going on. Tornado just took out one of my warehouses. I got other shit going on. You guys are locked into football." I'm with you. My first would be, Jeff, you're in a new city, bright lights. Like, it might be Las Vegas Aces, Las Vegas, whatever. But like, let's pivot. Yeah, let's love that. Las Vegas, exactly. Roulette.
I might even not lean into playing into a playing card. But again, somebody just Iceman. You guys are asking for death threats. LOL.
I think that's the move. I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, but again, I say it only partly tongue in cheek because the reality is, a leadership change is, and you and I have been on the record for years. We like Mark and we root for him to figure it out. But
the Las Vegas Teslas, don't hate that. Yeah, there's a stench, and it starts with the Davis family. And listen, right or wrong, as long as they own it, consistently bad shit happens. It's just a fact, And they are consistently terrible in a league that breeds parity, and they can't sniff getting over the hump.
They got to get lucky here because there's not a history of doing in these situations.
But the one thing he has, like, let's say 5 good coaches are available and like you're locked into 2 or 3 of them, he does have the ability to offer a lot of money to those guys.
He might get lucky.
It is a lucrative area to live.
Doesn't have to. I'm not, I'm sensitive when I say it's an easy to take a cheap shot and say, just change the name. I'm not trying to be, I'm sensitive to it, but the point being, this thing needs an overhaul.
They need a change. They need, when we were kids and the Super Nintendo, something would, and you just unplug it. separate from the
hard
blow-in,
reset. Yeah.
just a hard reset. It used to have to do it like probably more consistently with like a decade-old computers in previous, a little less now. That's what they need. Just every single person, oh, you've worked here for 15 years? You're done. Because I was reading a lot about Brian Kelly to LSU. He's ruffled some feathers. Just a couple guys, like they had a strength coach named Tommy Moffitt, who'd been there with Saban, Les, this guy. Just they've had a lot of institutional guys that like Patrick Peterson to Honey Badger to Jamar Chase, they swore by. They were devastated. Like, you can't fire Tommy Moffitt. First thing, Brian Kelly, like, listen, you might, like, you're gone. This thing needs an overhaul. And I heard this guy that covers LSU that played there just say, some of these guys are letting go. If you ask anyone worth their salt who's been around them, high-level LSU guys, they would say that guy's good at his job. But part of hiring this new guy in, and in college, when you hire like a Brian Kelly or a Nick Saban or an Urban Meyer, in a weird way, they become immediately like the owner, the coach, and the GM, right? Like when you hire Mario to the U, Mario's going to be making all the decisions football-wise. Like he would be the owner of the U. And they just need, like, honestly, Jack did some of that, right, when he got there. But in the NFL, it's just hard to overcome the owner because they truly, like, I think with college, unless it's like Oregon where there's one guy signing all the checks, like, there's a lot of different moving parts, so you can play a lot. Like, in football, it's one fucking guy. Like, there's just a reason that guy hovers over. And honestly, the Yorks battle some of that too, but they just get lucky. They've hired Harbaugh and they hired Kyle. Like, ultimately, John Gruden, like, wasn't a great hire. Like you said, he was a professional coach, but he was nowhere near what they thought they were getting, right? That was part of the problem. It was like, yeah, he's a professional coach, but so is Jack. Like, John just, it turned out like, God, John has a lot of flaws for $100 million. Like, if John Gruden is the equivalent of what, like, LSU and Miami, right? They just gave, what Mario get, $85 million, and Brian Kelly got 90. So that's $170 million. If those guys turn into what Gruden was, people would be losing their shit after 3 years, right? They'd be apoplectic, like the people close to that program. And ultimately, I think a lot of Raider fans, I think everyone would tell you they were thoroughly, and I know me too, as just an outsider, I thought Gruden was going to come in like this Parcellsian offensive guy, and it turns out, God, he was just it was a bizarre experience. We're not talking about the emails I'm talking just his coaching, his talent acquisition, just his running a football team for 3 years and 5 games was unlike what I expected when they hired him. Yeah.
Kayla Demo says this team was humming with Ruggs and Gruden. Stop wolfing. The problem is when you zoom out 50,000 feet, every year it's something. Every year it's something, right? It's just over and over and over. Here's the bottom line. Let me read you something that Vic Tafur wrote before the game, okay? Here's Vic Tafur's. This is from Vic's article in The Athletic on Saturday. Arrowhead might be the perfect setting for Sunday's last stand, as the Raiders, now 6-6 after a 3-0 start, have to win to stay alive in the playoff race. At 6-7, there might be a slim mathematical chance, but the Raiders just aren't going to beat 4 good teams in a row after losing 5 out of 6. No, this is it. Interim head coach Rich Bisaccia, general manager Mike Mayock, and quarterback Derek Carr could all have their long-term fates sealed Sunday if owner Mark Davis decides to blow the whole thing up again.
I think Mark, I'm not trying to source guess here, but Jerry McDonald and Vic Tafur, who have been embedded with this operation for the entirety of Mark's ownership, right? Right, Mark took over in 2010 or 11.
These guys have been covering the team that whole time, yeah.
And they were even there before. They have a personal relationship with the guy. They have both said things about, and I would say, good, like, to be clear, like good report, like these are like reliable, like what they say I read and enjoy. These are journalists. Like yes, in a day and age when journalists are dying, like they're not going to exist maybe in 20 years. Like these guys are true journalists. I think, well, they're going to exist just much differently than currently the guys we grew up on.
Yeah, just God bless the non-team media. But
yeah, I think. Listen, we all know Mayock and the coach. I mean, they don't have a coach. They have an interim coach. I think what they are saying is like, Mark is not prepared to give Derek $130, $140 million. It's what they are alluding to without coming out and saying it. Like, Mark Davis has zero intention of giving Derek Carr a long-term deal. I mean, they're saying that without saying it. And I don't blame him. But, as we've talked, someone would, and he does have value, but he's had some moments without some of his best players where I think you go, God, would you feel great about giving this guy $140 million? I do understand that, like, his stance on that.
I mean, look, generally, tell me if you think this is wrong, when we say this is the opportunity, this is a spot where the owner needs to back out, hire somebody, and let him do his job, is generally around the time when an owner steps in and starts putting his fingerprints on everything. That's usually how this stuff works, right? The person in power, as things go badly, they usually don't step away; they step further in. And maybe this is what Mark Davis is about to do. What my point being, to your point, is Mark Davis about to be the one to make the decision on the quarterback?
Well, it's already been reported.
Executive X, right?
Even a couple weeks ago, I think Lock and Fora wrote that. I think Graziano wrote that. Mark Davis is going to make a decision on Derek Carr before he hires a GM or a coach. So he's going to go into these meetings. I'm not extending this guy. And you're right. Like, that shouldn't be. I would say Mark's had a front row seat for 9 years. Mark's watched every one of his games. Would you feel great about giving him $140 million? Like the guy, but holy shit.
No, but I wouldn't feel great about my owner being my head scout either. Now, maybe Ron Wolf is telling him. Right?
Yeah. Howie Long, Bill Romanowski. I mean, he talks to all these people.
Yeah. Madden might be cutting up some tape.
I mean, John's sending text messages
to Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Maybe is that a group chat? Does it turn out Madden and Harbaugh is actually a group chat with Mark Davis?
I would love to see Harbaugh as a coach of the Raiders. Kind of like him at Michigan too, though.
David says Mark Davis is a poor man's Jerry Jones. Did you see what Jerry did today?
No.
He flew the Cowboys' personal benches to Washington
because they wouldn't give him heated benches.
I don't know if they wouldn't or what the deal was, or if their benches just sucked there. He flew the Cowboys' heated benches, Dallas Cowboys on the logo on the back. I don't think you can fit those in first class. He flew. I don't know if you need like a military plane, cargo. FedEx picked them up, something. He flew there. He flew their benches to Washington. Flew their benches.
I did see Sal, Jimmy Kimmel's cousin, Bill Simmons' guy.
I thought you meant Sal Pal.
Yeah, quoted a tweet. Because obviously, Cousin Sal, a lot of people were talking shit about Jerry Jones doing that. He said, in no world are the football team who has they have plumbing issues there. They don't have a name. Are they allowed to make fun of us for funneling our benches to the game? Like, fuck you guys.
Who would make fun of it? It's an insane thing to make fun of.
I feel like a lot of people were talking shit because it was only 50 degrees. Like, it wasn't like a 20-degree day. It wasn't even that cold. But Jerry's just a pro player guy. Like, you just want your players to be comfortable.
Yeah,
you ever sat on one of those heated benches before a game? They do feel pretty awesome.
Just also it's like decorating. It's like when you go to a hotel and they have drawers and you like put your clothes in the drawers. Now, I don't ever do that, but it just makes you feel a little more at home, even if you're only there for 2 days. You know?
I did it this summer when I stayed for like 8 days in Arizona. It was awesome. I had a closet. Treat it like a closet.
You just put your logo on your sideline, makes you feel a little more at home.
Yeah.
Jerry
Jones is a fantastic owner. People talk shit like he spends his really only downfall is he gets too loyal with coaches. How about his drafting? I mean, you see how good? You see Micah Parsons today?
God.
What is going on there? He's the defensive player of the year.
He's fantastic.
He's been incredible. I don't even know what position he plays. They stand him up. They put his hand on the ground. He fucking flies by guards. He flies by tackles. He catches guys in the open field. He sacks the quarterback. He has been. I do wonder. Now, Jamar Chase wasn't that impacted, but a pass rusher like that who was more of a stand-up linebacker, he sat the year out, right? If he had a normal 12-game season, it would have been hard with his talent. Like, I don't want to say out of sight, out of mind, because he went 12th overall, but no way that guy goes 12 overall if he has a season kicking ass as a pass rusher.
So. I mean, he's got 12 sacks. He has 9.5 sacks since week 9. What week is this?
Well, it's week. The Niners are 6-7. They've had a bye, so it's week 14.
He's 9.5 sacks since week 9, most in the league. 16 QB hits, most in the league. 10 TFLs, most in the league. 3 forced fumbles, tied for most in the league.
Well, if I just told you, if you're just watching him and you said this guy's going into his 4th year, they got to give him a contract extension this offseason, like, what would we be talking about? $125 million?
We're talking about one of the highest paid players in the NFL.
I mean, he's a difference-making, ass-kicking machine. And obviously Nick Bosa, but Nick Bosa is a true defensive end. Like, that's his position. Like, I watch Micah Parsons, I'm like, what position does this guy play? They're moving him all over. He's fucking awesome. I mean, but he's linear. Khalil could also stand up, but he was an outside passer. This guy can play stand-up linebacker, even though clearly he's a dominant pass rusher. Because I saw some Eagles people tweeting today, did the Eagles fuck up? Because obviously on the hierarchy, they would always value a pass rusher over a wide receiver. Yeah. But I think Micah Parsons was viewed as a linebacker. So when you say linebacker, you're like, yeah, if I get a generational wide receiver or a generational linebacker, I might take the wide receiver. But if you get a generational pass rusher, it's not even no one even question. It's just a no-brainer. And they did it.
By the way, Mahomes.
I don't think they knew.
Mahomes about the Raiders going on the logo. I mean, you don't want people coming to your stadium trying to disrespect the things you've built. And so for us, they just gave us a little bit of motivation to go out there and win against a really good football team that we already had a rivalry against. And it's usually tough football. Anyway, thought that quote would be more dramatic than it was, but
I think they're at the point, and this is where you might need to rebrand. They don't even really care about you that much anymore. You can't beat a team, guy, 89-14 over 2 game, really a month stretch, right? I mean, that game wasn't that long ago, and have that much respect for him. 89-14. 89-14. That's crazy.
Here, read this comment from Matt. He says, if Harbaugh ends up the next coach of the Raiders, wouldn't you trust him with Carr after what he did with Alex Smith? I actually would like to see that.
I do too. I would too. The more and more I think, is Harbaugh going to leave the University of Michigan for Mark Davis? Talks and power.
What did John Gruden see? John Gruden saw an opportunity to take advantage of a situation. And that makes it sound sinister, but it was an opportunity to.
He's an employee. I mean, they don't give you equity in the deal, right? I mean, part of doing it, it's why you want the juice.
He's an employee, but at the end of the day, it was going to be really hard, I think, to imagine a scenario where John Gruden got fired from the Raiders for performance, right?
No, my point is supporting, you're saying you saw it's not sinister when you're not getting equity in the deal. If you're going to be an employee, well, not all employees are equal, right? Even if they're all if we went around the league, certain head coaches probably I got to deal with this. I got my fucking general manager up my ass. I got to deal with the owner. Ask Doug Peterson what Mondays are like with the meetings. Do you think John Gruden? There's a meeting John Gruden had that he didn't want to have. You could argue even Belichick. If Kraft calls, he had to listen to him. I don't think John Gruden had to listen. Mark, they probably fucking left him alone. It's an incredible job.
Yeah.
I think the Niners is the same thing. But for whatever reason, there's a toxicity with that franchise.
But the Niners were toxic when Harbaugh took that job.
Right? I know, but the one thing Jim has, clearly John has some toxicity with him. John brought some weirdness.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm just saying, it's not that dissimilar. I mean, they were 3-13 when Harbaugh took over the Niners the year before.
Yeah, but then Jim started winning immediately.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Harbaugh stepped into a bad situation the last time and won right away.
A lot more talent on that team inheriting, I would say, than this one.
But there was some, this team, if they missed the playoffs, I won't look at them and go, they obviously shouldn't be. Well, their offensive line struggles. They've made some bad decisions.
Yeah, they have a first-round tackle that they drafted number 17. They moved him to guard. He is not a very good player.
Wow.
And people are you hate Leather. I don't even care about Alex Leatherwood. I just know today, now Chris Jones, an upper echelon player, that was JV versus varsity. And to be a playoff team, you can't have a first-round guy, whether he's going to be your guard or tackle, be just a terrible player. He had he was just turnstile. That's got to be pretty concerning.
Yeah.
That's got to be concerning.
Very.
I would say Mayock.
It feels like it's done, right? You can't end like
it's
this.
Over. Yeah, it feels like it's over.
You can't.
That's where you are right. If he's willing to offer $100 million, and hell, the $100 million might not get you 10 years this time, right? It might be 6 years. If you want, Jim Harbaugh might be okay. 6 years, $14 million a year.
Well, if Harbaugh's in the playoff, let's say whether they win a game or not. Let's say Harbaugh were to get a new contract right now. What would that be? I mean, if Mel Tucker's getting $95 million, right? You're right. Harbaugh at minimum would be getting 80.
8? Oh, yeah. I was thinking like if Mark Davis, the number would start like, I don't know if you'd feel comfortable doing a 10-year deal anymore. Would you do 6 for 90? That's 15 a year.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is, what's the Michigan extension going to look like?
Oh yeah, I mean, you see the going rates. He's worth that.
So
he gets you the playoffs. So
you got to top that.
Yeah, I would say 12 times 6 would be the minimum. 12 times 6 would be 72.
Unlike now, it's just part of it is, do I want to be back in the NFL? Like, there might be a number that's just kind of close and it's good enough. But
well, do you expect Harbaugh, if he doesn't come to the NFL, to get a new contract from Michigan after this season?
Yeah,
he's earned that.
That's what happens, right?
Yeah,
especially
Mel Tucker after one season
gave money away. Sure. So, John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about RexMD.com/ham. Viagra should not cost $90. We don't think so. Neither does RexMD.com/ham.
Tell the people, guy.
They have FDA approved generic Viagra starting at just $2 a tablet and delivered discreetly to your door. Here's how it works. You fill out a brief survey, and if appropriate, you can start a starter pack of generic Viagra. They're currently available to new customers. Over 100,000 men have gotten generic Viagra from the comfort of their home. There's no copay. There's no doctor office visits. Your shipping is always free. If you're looking for generic Viagra, RexMD has made the process fast, easy, affordable, unlike the Raiders' next coach. So don't wait another minute. RexMD is now offering those starter packs to new customers. Just go to RexMD.com/ham. RexMD.com/ham. It's a U.S. licensed pharmacy, professional medical support, 100% U.S. licensed medical providers. RexMD.com/ham.
Yeah. Good save there, brother.
Good read, Middlecoff. Good read by you.
Back in the radio days, only you would get credit for that one.
No, you did. What was the one you had?
Yeah, they gave me one. You had several. For a little inside radio, the guy that reads it only gets the credit. Luckily, in this part, we're all in this together.
Yeah, we're happy to share.
Radio's kind of got some shady things going on. If you're new to the business, you don't really know who's getting paid where. And then all of a sudden, you find out they're getting $5,000 to $1,000 little kickers going on. And you're like, what's going on here?
Supplemental.
You don't shake.
It's all supplemental. No, it wasn't a car in there. I mean, it was a lot of
No, just you had several extra reads. That was
I was there. I was there first. I'd been A's post game.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Powell says if Seattle cleans house, the Raiders are going to give Pete Carroll $100 million.
At 7 years old, I don't think they're messing with him. But like we said, I mean, Seattle wins 4 straight games. They'll be in the playoffs. Watch them win a game. I wouldn't want to play Seattle. Would you, Russell Wilson?
There? No, not if they're playing like that. That they've.
I'll tell you this: the NFL right now would sign up over those other teams we listed. Would the NFL rather have Seattle run it off or Philly, Washington get that 7th spot, or Minnesota?
I don't think they'd hate Philly. I bet both. I bet even Washington rates higher than you think they do. But yeah, Seattle.
But they could just get Russell and Tom Brady round 1.
Absolutely.
Just on the picture, right?
No.
Russell, Aaron Rodgers, the part 7.0. I mean, it's a pretty easy one to sell because when you're the 7 seed, you're playing the Packers or the Bucks, right? I mean, that's an easy sell. That to me would have a night game written all over it, or Sunday afternoon with Buck and Aikman. Or it'll be interesting to see who gets screwed with the Monday night game this year because I'll promise you this: whoever gets the Monday night spot, unless it's Belichick, he'll be mad, but he wouldn't say anything. It'll be hard for a coach not to talk a little shit leading into that game. Like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy.
Yeah, Monday night feels to me like Tennessee Buffalo.
See, you think they're just going to do a throwaway, not like a primetime matchup there?
You think Tennessee Buffalo is a throwaway? To me, it's pretty good, but it's not, Seahawks.
You don't think they would do that to like Rodgers or Brady or Mahomes?
I don't think so. Because to me, it's like you're going to rate. It's Monday night.
It's a
standalone
fastball.
Monday night primetime game. But you also don't want to debut it and make it What's the worst matchup you could get here?
Well, that game, then you're a lock. You know you're playing on Sunday afternoon, right? Whoever plays that game is not going to have to play on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's pretty ridiculous.
What do you think it would be? You
I
think
don't
it would be
know.
New England?
I think they're going to.
Well, New England might have to buy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, my point is, if they did give Bill, he wouldn't make a big deal of it, even though internally he would be very angry.
Let's say Tampa. I don't think they do that to Tom.
Would you get a home game? We're talking about teams that would get home games, so it's not as big a deal for the home team, though.
Tampa, Washington, would they do that Monday Night Football?
It's really more of a big deal for the road team if that road team wins the game. That's really the only way you get screwed, right?
Yeah,
because the home team wins. So let's say it's Tom. Let's say it's Tampa, Seattle. That was the Monday night game. Well, if Tampa wins and then they're playing the following week, I don't know. Let's just say they're playing the Rams and they're hosting the Rams. Is it that big a deal? I mean, the Rams just had to play the previous day. I mean, it's not.
I mean, Seattle. That's cross country. Where would they be the next week?
That would
they get Arizona, the 1 seed? They'd get Arizona the next week.
Yeah, or let's say or Green Bay. Like, let's say then they had to do a crazy travel. Like that. That would be the way you would say it. Let's say Seattle played. Let's say Seattle played Lambeau week. Monday night, upset the Packers. The following week, short week, then they got to play Tampa. Like, that'd be like, Jesus Christ, this is asking these guys to do a lot.
Yeah.
But if the home team wins, I don't know if they have that much room to complain.
Indy at Kansas City?
That would be a lot of people watching. That'd be a good Monday night game.
Yeah, it would be.
I think the Monday night game is going to work. Because it's going to be it's going to be hard to have a bad first-round matchup. Because even when you look at the 7 seed, like, even if it's Philly, okay, Philly, Tampa. Now, the problem could be, does that team lose by 20? Like, is the 7 seed not any good?
But the 7 seed wasn't any good last year, and they almost the Washington-Tampa Bay game.
But it turns out football team just matches up well against Tampa.
Yeah, and it was a home game, right? Which was weird.
Like, was it muddy? Pretty. No, I think Heineke was just making sweet plays, if I remember correctly. Like, watching today, Heineke was like, I don't really see it with Heineke. I was pretty locked into that game in the first half.
No, it's not there, John. That's what I said like 3 weeks ago. Like, it's not there. Like, we've overhyped it, I think.
Well, this is the thing with the car. Like, if it over the next couple weeks it comes out, like, I am not extending Carr. Now, he won't publicly say that, but it starts kind of coming hot and heavy. There are going to be teams lined up to just go, God, can we just get Derek with our infrastructure in our team, right? The football team would have to be near the top of the list, right?
Yeah. I mean, football team. We did the list on the show the other day. Football team, New Orleans to me.
But I think it really starts coming in more to, like, as every game passes. Like, is Derek done? And I know we can do this. It's been going on for a while. It does feel like it is time to just blow the bitch up.
I agree, but then you just go, okay, cool, let's blow it up. Where's our next quarterback coming from exactly?
Start over.
With
Bottom
who?
Out.
With who?
The Raiders feel a little like the Kings.
Yours?
They're always trying to bottom out, but they never quite know how to do it.
Because they're not trying to bottom out.
Yeah, they're not trying to bottom out. They're trying to win, but then they never win, so it just never really works.
Carolina, by the way. Oh, speaking of just like in the middle, in the morass of just nowhere land. Bench Cam. Well, because of course, I mean, whatever. Like, what are they? They're going to get through 2 years. And it's like, what is Matt Rule exactly? Where are we in the development of this program?
Well, wouldn't you say if you're like the Niners, just looking at the landscape of the NFC, you actually feel pretty good about big picture? Carolina has no way out of it in sight. There are no quarterbacks available. They're fucked. Minnesota, they're going to fire their head coach. Now, they got some talent, but they don't really. You beat them several times over the last couple of years. Like I said, the football team has no.
They don't have a franchise quarterback.
The
Minnesota.
Falcons, we'll see this week. I mean, they're going nowhere fast. The Saints would be scary if they could pull off one of these deals, right? Get a Russ, get a Carr, but that's still we're asking for a pretty monumental NFL moment to happen for them, right? For them to get a quarterback, it would be an enormous day in the NFL in March, right? That'd be a huge story. So we're asking for something that, like, doesn't happen that often to go their way. Seattle is probably the one shittier team this year. that probably isn't as bad as they've been, right? Like, you played the Seattle season 10 times. More than likely, they're not 5-8.
Yeah, I would say this, though.
The Lions,
I think
Giants,
it's a great
Bears
point.
all suck.
I think it's a great point. Now, Trey Lance, yes, he's unproven. Very unproven. Like, as unproven as it gets for the most part. But he doesn't have to be anything other than a guy who you help if you can supplement, especially using some of Jimmy's money. We know you have good receivers. We know for the most part you can block well enough, particularly for a mobile quarterback. You've got enough good players on defense. If you can just figure out, make your corners just passable so you don't have to score 30 points a game. Because to your point, look at the NFC and how many teams in the next 3 years.
I think the AFC is way better.
It's better. Just look at it this way. How many of the 16 teams in the NFC in the next 1, 2, 3 years are doing some or in the middle of or about to have to reset everything, right?
Well, what if Tom retires?
I would say, what? If Tom retires?
Well, I mean, he's 44.
Okay. I mean, and there's 3 teams, right? There's Green Bay.
Is he going to play till he's 47?
There's Green Bay and Tampa, 2 teams whose right now their quarterbacks are old, but we can't predict their demise yet. So let's just put them aside even though at some point they'll be resetting right now.
I wouldn't throw Green Bay in that mix just because 37 is not that old.
It's true, but I'm saying for the purpose of this exercise, let's not predict Tom Brady's demise. Arizona's good. Dallas is good. The Rams, I'll put them into their solid category with Stafford. Washington, nope, they need a quarterback. Minnesota, nope, reset coming. Philly, nope, still figuring it out. Atlanta, gonna need a quarterback. New Orleans needs a quarterback. Carolina needs a quarterback. Chicago, I don't know. Giants, nope. Detroit, nope. Seattle feels closer to resetting it than not, but who knows? They always pull victory from the grips of death. But the point is, I think we just named 9 of the 16 teams. Well, 16 minus 9 is 7. That's how many playoff spots there are. Yeah, you're right. NFC is in a major state of transition right now. And simply having the guy that you think is the quarterback of the future is half the battle. Now, you got to make him that. But the Niners are ahead of some of those other teams that we just mentioned, a lot of them, just based on having the guy they think they believe in.
We're recording this, but Fields does have 2 touchdowns in the first half. I don't know what they look like.
Maybe he's a guy. Maybe are they changing
but they're going to reset the whole franchise. You're right. I mean, the Niners, they're going to have a ton of money. So I think it's going to be less about they're going to have to nail their first round picks because they don't have any. It's going to be they're going to have to really, if they're going to spend $15-20 million signing bonuses on a couple guys that are maybe some of those undervalued assets on teams that don't have the space. Hell, maybe make a trade for a guy. They're just gonna, if they get it right, they could be really, really good. Because we already see how good, how talented their core is. You just put their core guys, non-quarterback, against all the other top teams, they're right there, right? Bosa, Trent, Debo, Kittle, that's Warner. I mean, Al-Shair's becoming a legitimate core starter.
Ayuk,
I
would say Juwan Jennings turned into their another Kendrick Bourne all over again.
Yeah, but to me, if you're worth your salt, you should always be able to find Juwan Jennings, Kendrick Bourne. I have faith in good. Yeah,
I'm just saying you have to find them every 3 years. You don't have to find them every year because they're cheap. They're on your team for a couple of years.
Yeah, got them for a couple of years, making $750,000, $800,000. I'm with you.
So
they're going to have to find corners. That's what.
Yes.
I'll give the Eagles are a good example. A couple years ago, Howie got Slay for a 3rd round pick, and he's been awesome for them.
Wow.
So can you do but if you make that move with a team that doesn't have many draft picks, you got to get it right. So if they're going to use a 3rd round pick to get, Byron Murphy, I'm just throwing out a name. Obviously, the Cardinals wouldn't trade, but you know what I mean? You just better be right. Because they've made a couple trades, and it's if they could do the D Ford one over, they probably would. But I get why they did it, and it always feels good at the time. They're bold moves. You just got to be right on them. Because you got these other teams that are you're just kind of incremental moves. The other teams we listed, half of them in the NFC, have to find the fucking quarterback. You might too, but you can at least have a guy to work with. You already have the guy on your team.
Yeah.
Bears up 24-14. Don't sleep on Nagy.
Time to demand that he get his flowers. It's a Flowers game.
Flowers.
The Oregon Ducks have a football coach, John, Dan Lanning.
Give us your breakdown.
Well, he's coaching Georgia, so he's going to get head-to-head with Harbaugh coming up here in the college football playoff, which is good for him. I mean, it's actually, on one hand, you want your coach to come coach, but being in the playoff is not the worst thing in the world just for a little attention, right? A little good recruiting. I saw they had a couple corners. One corner from Southern California that decommitted after Mario left just posted photos of himself in an Oregon uniform. So maybe he's recommitted. I think it's got what I like about it is this, even though I didn't know a lot about Dan Lanning, you were the one that broke the news to me when you read it on Twitter. Everyone's like, it's not going to be Dan Lanning. I was like, well, it turned out it's going to be Dan Lanning. No, I know there was the story that they'd offered the job to Wilcox. I've heard that they didn't at the time of that first article from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. They actually hadn't offered the job to Dan Lanning. Who cares? Whatever, they hired him. What I like about it is I think what's important is you take what Mario Cristobal established, and you do have to build on that. So it was about, this SEC level commitment to recruiting. Like, I think it's important to continue that and not to fall back off of the momentum that was created. Now, can this guy game manage? Can he hire an offensive coordinator? I have no earthly idea. No clue. But I do like at least the idea of let's take this thing that Mario brought from the SEC with him and let's try and continue it because he gave Oregon an identity back. Oregon's had an identity before. Oregon's been great. They've been in national championships, but they've fallen off and they got an identity back. And maybe this guy can, the kind of tough guy, big physical guy, let's punch people in the mouth guy thing. Maybe he can continue that.
I think it's a major risk given he's 35 years old. He's never been a head coach. And anything less than minimum 10 wins next year, given their roster, people are going to he could get fired fast. When you hired a guy from the South, it's clearly a very risky move. But in fairness to them, I think they were getting turned down by a lot of people. I think the timing of it was weird. Dave Aranda would not take their job. And which is not. It's not. I mean, Baylor pays, but I'm just saying, like, they wanted other guys that would not take the job. They were.
No, I'm just saying. No, my point was, is Dave Aranda the next great coach? I don't know. I'm a big fan, but
to think that you would
have had one good year,
guy in a million, one good year, but he's been a defensive coordinator where he called the defense. I mean, Dan Lanning, he called the defense. Like Kirby Smart's a defensive coordinator.
I get it. I understand.
In no world would you want Dan Lanning. And listen, I'm not anti.
Well, I don't know. Again, like I said, this happens all the time where Dave Aranda's going to be great for the next 10 years, but it happens I've said it the other day with coordinators and it happens with head coaches all the time where you can't miss. And then 3 years later, you're out of a job. So, the idea that like Dave Aranda is the truth and there's no way this, whatever.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the guy has experience being head coach. We've seen him win
for sure. For sure. But the idea that there's no way Dan Lanning can be better than Dave Aranda, I have no idea.
100%.
But which is part of your point, which I do agree with, is we don't have it. It's a major risk. It is a major risk.
Well, and then if it goes, like he's going back to the SEC. It's just that to me is
which I don't care, but that doesn't bother me. If he has success,
yeah. So you swung for the fences for a guy that if it works out will leave, and there's a large probability just based on not all of these coaches this year are going to work, right?
Right. I'd rather hire a guy that if you think if the biggest problem is that he's so good that he leaves, that's better than the alternative.
I agree. And I appreciate that they did not hire Chip because I think hiring this guy was the difficult move to make. Hiring Chip would have been the easy move to make because I think hiring Chip, you're probably in the playoff mix next year, but they liked recruiting. It's like, once a guy gets a good job, gets a little money, maybe lose a little weight, and he starts dating a little hotter girl than he's used to, it's like the knock on Chip is not that he doesn't recruit, he hates recruiting. I would say the number one thing this guy brings, besides obviously he's a high-level scheme guy being around Kirby for years, at that program you are recruiting your ass off.
Yeah.
And I think his energy, I heard, did you listen to Tommy Reese with Russillo?
No.
He was really good. And one thing he said that he's like, we hire Marcus Freeman this year as the defensive coordinator. And he's like, one thing that happened right away is Marcus kind of brought a different level of recruiting to our staff. And I started thinking, like, I can't I'm a Notre Dame guy. I've been here a while. Like, I'm the offensive coordinator and I'm a Notre Dame. And this guy's out recruiting me. It's like he kind of inspired me. And I think some of those guys, like, you know where guys like to go if you don't like recruiting? A staff like Chip. Because a guy that doesn't like recruiting want to be around? Nick or Mario or Kirby. because they want to fucking recruit as much as they want to win the game. And that's the one thing this guy's going to bring. But, like, he's never ran a pro. He's hiring a young offensive coordinator. And you and I are younger guys. I'm rooting for younger guys. I just think it's difficult, man. And there's a shitload of. I texted buddy today in the SEC, or maybe yesterday. I would say Oregon is our LSU out here, right? USC is really the Bama, the Ohio State. It's like our number one program, but Oregon's right there, and the money that flows in there and the expectations are really high. 3 of their last 4 coaches guy have been in the national championship game. Or I guess 2 of their last 3, and Mario's. I guess 3 of their last 4 have won a Rose Bowl. 2 have been in national championship games, and 2 of them, Chip and Mario got. I mean, at the time, Chip's money sounds weird now, like $50 million from the Eagles. It sounds like nothing, but I mean, got incredible jobs, right? Chip got hired by the Eagles and was turned down the Bucs the year before, and Mario. Like if Mario, like LSU would have been interested, they didn't think he was interested. Like Mario was a hot candidate for people.
Yeah, I don't know that he would have taken the LSU job though.
I bet if he would have said, "Hey, Florida, I'm interested," they would have hired him, right? I mean,
yeah. I think
that's what I'm saying. Like the
Chip
pressure
would have
like,
won
LSU
next year.
Yeah, it was the easy move.
You know who had the number 1 offense in the Pac-12 last year? UCLA scoring. You know who was top 10 in scoring in college football this year? UCLA. Like they scored a ton of points.
Don't they have a young athletic quarterback coming up the pipe too?
Who's that?
Oregon,
like Ty Thompson, quarterback. Yeah, we'll see. Young quarterbacks.
What I'm saying is he a pocket guy or is he a move guy?
No, he moves.
That's what I'm saying. So
but he's a thrower. I mean, yeah. Did you see the letter? Like Justin Herbert, Joey Harrington, Marcus Mariota, Achilles Smith. They wrote a letter to Rob Mullins. Like, we've lost our identity. We need the Ducks. This always happens with, alums always want us guys. Always.
I'm on the difference. I understand where they're coming from.
I totally understand where they're coming from, but alums always overcorrect for we need someone who understands us. Always.
Well, did they have a name they were pushing? Was there a specific guy that the alumni
No, it's been suggested. The letter did not specify a name, but it's been suggested that the unsaid name was Justin Wilcox.
But he turned them down.
We want somebody who will stay here forever, essentially.
Or do you think that's why that even if he didn't turn them down, they wanted out there that he turned them down, so these guys lay off their back? That's what I feel. That's my theory. That even if it's not true, that the Oregon Ducks want it out there because they're getting a lot of pushback, I would imagine. Like, you hired Dan Lanning?
You're saying so that these guys, so people know, like, hey, we tried to do what all our alums want.
Because Dan Lanning is not the equivalent of like what Lincoln Riley was right before he got the job. He's not that famous. He doesn't transcend the nation. So it's like, what? Because it's the LSU. They view their job as elite because in their minds it is, and it's fucking out here. It's an awesome job. I get where they're coming from, but I'm with you, and like I don't know exactly who they like. Wilcox wouldn't solve all their problems, but I do understand. Like we the best we get was Dan Lanning. If we're gonna go with outsiders, seems kind of crazy.
It's a big swing. Because, the thing with Oregon is, and this sometimes is overrated, but the fact that Oregon is a brand is a big part of that job. You are not just managing a football team. You're managing Nike and Phil Knight. You're managing an area where football is by far and away number one, and being the football coach is the number one show in town. And it's a national brand. And with Oregon's brand comes recruiting and swagger and all this other shit. That is a personality type for a coach.
Yeah.
6 letter says, need some Ham Tito's collab merch. Actually, Friday night, I spilled some Tito's on my shirt. Is that a Ham Tito's collab?
No? You want to watch the second half of this game?
Yeah, let's go do it. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Have a great week. Give us your shave it or save it submissions. We have another one coming up on Tuesday. No room on a Sunday pod today for that one. But I know we do have another shave it or save it. And, holler at us. Things happen. We'll be there. Thanks for hanging.
Let's do it, people.